secret files of Teletraan 2.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to an episode of From the Files of Teletraan 2. It's me, it's Andy, Decade Andy here. I had to really think about that while on the toilet today, because I don't usually do the intros for these shows, but Mikey's not here. He's got better things to do, apparently, tonight than dine with me at a dinner table. I brought another individual here, man who I like to put my sausage meat between. It's Mr. Grufflock. Hello, Gruff.
This fate fits me. I will not bother to see God in the eye unless it is to spit on him.
Hello.
Hello. Interesting way to go after I said I'd put my sausage meat between you, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'd already thought that was the most outlandish sentence from the comic we're going to be talking about tonight in order to use as a hello.
Oh, okay. I see how it is. Yeah, we're not going to be doing Transformer comics because... well, there aren't anymore.
What are you talking about? I think that is a lie said by Megatron once. I mean, as he was sitting on the toilet. Yes.
I mean, if it's written by Simon Furman, it could be, I suppose.
Actually, I can see it as a Starscream.
This fate fits me. I will not bother to see God in the eye until it is to spit on him.
I could see it. Yeah, unfortunately... No Transformer comics. They're pretty much dead on arrival at this point, as far as I know. The license has gone from IDW. Mikey obviously knows more about this. You probably know more about this than I do as well.
I do not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think the license has gone from IDW, so now it's just it's a void franchise in terms of comics. So I thought to myself, what if I get people to recommend me comics and then we podcast with them? What I specifically said to Gruff, like, give me a Spawn comic, because I've never read Spawn. I know of the TV. I've watched the TV series. I watched the movie, and what did I do? I have watched people talk about the first arc of Spawn, like his introduction arc, until probably I think like Angela pops up from the original comic, and I thought, well, I don't really want to talk about that because I already know it. So, Gruff, what did you recommend me reading Spawn-wise out of all of Spawndom?
Well, I actually got it down to three different things because they're all three that I have quite a lot of love for. One was Hellspawn, which is almost like a Crypt Keeper style take on Spawn, where every issue or every story, I should say, is Spawn taking part in something that isn't actually about him, but it's just all happening around him, which leads to a really good cult story, actually, which is, to this day, one of the funniest things I've ever read. And it's just, Hellspawn is very, very good. Sorry, that's, And then there was another one, which was pretty much the same kind of thing, but done by Ashley Wood. And Sam & Twitch, of course, was something I really wanted to get in on. But then I thought, actually, no. What would be a really good one is a small, self-contained story that we can go from start to finish with. And so I said, Spawn, The Dark Ages.
And I was like, small? It's like 600 pages.
Yeah, but it's self-contained.
It is definitely self-contained, yes.
And it breezes past.
I would say it eventually starts breezing past.
Yeah.
I think it is a bit of a slog to get through. I mean, we'll get into it, but I think it's a rough start.
Yeah. We'll get into why it's a rough start.
Oh, do you know things?
Oh yeah, there's all sorts of real interesting stuff when it comes to Dark Ages Spawn.
Oh, okay, interesting.
We'll get into. It's fun. It's very very fun.
So I suppose the question is, for those not aware, what is Spawn the Dark Ages? Well, Spawn the Dark Ages is kind of what it says on the tin. It's Spawn, but what if it was set during the Dark Ages? It's meant to take place at an earlier point in history. I guess it's meant to be... Is it meant to be, quote-unquote, canonical with the main Spawn line?
Yeah, it is, yeah. So the idea is that there is a Spawn once every couple of generations, basically. And so, well, I think it's once every 500 years, to be honest. But, you know, that is not a hard and fast rule. That changes whenever McFarlane or whoever's writing Spawn at the time decides that they want to have a go at something else. See Gunslinger Spawn.
Oh, that's the Wild West one, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
He has the best hat you've ever seen on any comics character ever.
It's very tall.
It's ridiculous.
It looks like if you silhouetted it, it looks like a beef eater's hat, but with a little ring around it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it looks like a hockey puck for when you're playing air hockey.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, just one with like a really good grasp, some real girth to wrap your hands around. So yeah, Spawn, for anybody who doesn't know, just to get a quick overview, Spawn is a character that was created in the early 90s by Tod Mcfarlane when he and a load of other creators left Marvel to create their own comics company in Image. Spawn is a great, big, dark, grim, silly character who has made a deal with the devil, Malbolgia, in order to come back to life. And he was sent forward in time, and he came back and his wife was remarried, and everything that he wanted to come back for is gone. So he's now a character with nothing to lose. He died for a bit, again, and then came back again. After, I want to say, 6 years of a completely different person being Spawn. Spawn gets weird. Spawn gets real weird.
Oh.
The first run, I'd say the first 5 years of comics is very, very 90s. It is horrendously 90s.
I mean, it came out in like, 93? Something like that, right?
Yeah. Kicked off in 92, I think it was actually kicked off.
Was it 92? Okay.
But yeah, so might have been 93.
This was obviously after like Tod Mcfarlane took inspiration from Marvel's very successful Nightwatch character.
Well...
Right? Nightwatch totally came first.
Or Prowler or Spawn. But there are pictures that McFarlane has put up of him when he was in college and the original designs for Spawn, which isn't that much different to what actually ended up being on the page. Tod McFarlane drew Prowler and characters like that for Marvel, and you can see that there's a bit of a give and take. You know, he's taken stuff that he's done and added it to this character in order to change it. I mean, the original pictures that he drew in college of Spawn, they're very Batman. It's recognizably Spawn, but it's very much the Batman of that era.
I guess that makes sense. Drawing inspiration from the stuff that you're reading at the time, kind of deal.
Absolutely. So I will actually put my hand up and say that Tod McFarlane, for all the things he has done, which has made me laugh or shake my head, he didn't rip Spawn off anything as such. It is a original character, don't steal.
Oh no, is he as good as the Sonic OCs though?
Oh, don't even start me on that conversation, or else we'll be here for days as I just ask people what the hell is wrong with you. But yeah, the Spawn's a really interesting slice of history because it is very much a push forward of what comics are at that time. Whilst you had a lot of big event comics starting to be a thing that happened a lot, Spawn just really rattles through its story. It just keeps on going. Yeah,
do you think it's strange? Because it always feels like, from my perspective, that Spawn's still stuck in the 90s in terms of how it writes. But obviously, that's as a person who doesn't read Spawn.
Yeah, absolutely not. No, Spawn's evolved a lot over the years.
Oh, thank God. I had the perception he was still kind of stuck in the 90s writing-wise.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I actually picked up some Spawn issues about 2 years ago. And I went, right, I'm going to have to go back and get some collected stuff because I haven't got the foggiest what's going on here.
Is this pre-King of Hell or post-King of Hell?
It was pre-King of Hell.
Okay.
Honestly, there was that much stuff had changed that I didn't know what was going on. So it was like, right, I'm going to have to go back and reread a lot of this. And then I came back to it again last year and just went, okay, Spawn's leading an army now. He's got an army of Spawns.
He's doing what he's made to do, I suppose.
There's a Mega Spawn that they're all fighting.
Mega Spawn. Is he called Mega Spawn?
No, he's not. He's not. But that's what he is. He's like a building-sized hunk of flesh that's got a spawn head. It's I didn't see any of this coming.
Sure.
During the 2000s, the very early 2000s, there was a lot of back and forth that was happening with Spawn. So different things were coming out. They were trying different ideas. They came up with the Sam and Twitch comic, which some people have said isn't great.
I've heard people say good things about Sam and Twitch generally when people talk about it.
It's not... The problem that a lot of people have is Sam and Twitch is very experimental, right? For example, there isn't speech balloons.
Oh.
Okay? Every bit of language, every bit of someone talking, there is a little white line and then some little white lines underneath the words to give you the idea who's talking. And a lot of people don't like that. I think it works really well with the setting that they've got with Sam and Twitch. It's a very odd, strange, Twilight Zone-y, X-Files type feel, but it's also ground level. There's a wonderful bit in the 4th issue of Sam and Twitch where Spawn comes out of the shadows. There's like 3 panels of him just slinking and flying, and he lands in front of them and just goes, "I have need of you." And Twitch, Sam just turns around and goes, "Fuck off, we're busy." There's a panel of Spawn, then he just backs off into the shadows again. And it's like, yep, well done. That's really good. Hellspawn, of course, was another one. Spawn the Undead. They even did a Cygor series, which was a Frankensteinian horror, which was actually surprisingly good.
Yeah, that's a Cyber Monkey. There was a cool figure that came out of him last year, at least a fun-looking one.
Yeah. Cygor's really cool. It's a really cool character.
How do you write a comic about a cyborg monkey?
You go down the Frankenstein route. You make it into a body horror. You know, it's a human brain in there that's going, what has happened to me?
I just thought it was a monkey with cybernetics. I didn't think there was a person's like brain inside the monkey. Okay, that makes more sense. You can write a story that way. I was just like, monkey's fine. He might be angry, but give him a banana, he'll be happy.
Are you thinking of Congo and just the Amy, shitty gorilla?
They made a toy line out of that movie.
I know. It's one of the biggest. I really wish I had the Amy figure from Congo because it makes me laugh so much. I mean, God's sake, we're talking about a company here that used its Dick Tracy toys to make its Last Action Hero toys.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, all they did was just change the heads.
Yeah.
I love it. So Spawn the Dark Ages. So after all of this, Spawn the Dark Ages comes out after a very, very weird legal battle because the way that Image Comics worked, legally, if you created something for Image Comics, you owned it because it is a creator-owned company, right? Neil Gaiman comes in and he creates Angela and the Dark Ages Spawn.
Oh, he made Dark Ages.
Comic. Yep.
Oh.
This is in the mainline comic.
Right.
So this is mainline Spawn. He creates them. And by Image's legal standing, he owns the rights to them. McFarlane doesn't realize this. The company that he created, the legalities that he was there to make, he didn't realize that Neil Gaiman owned the rights to Angela and to Dark Ages Spawn.
Is that why Angela was able to be taken over to Marvel eventually?
Exactly that, yes. So Gaiman sold the rights to Angela to Marvel and then proceeded to donate the money to the Comic Book Associators Fund, which is for legal fees for comic book creators.
Huh.
So, yeah, really good. So that's why Angela vanished and then turned up in Marvel fighting Thor.
Huh.
Aha. Yes. A deal was worked out. Right. A deal was worked out because somehow down the line, McFarlane thought he got the rights to a comic called Miracle Man.
What?
Right?
I haven't heard of Miracle Man.
Miracle Man is a real... We're going to get real into the weeds on this one. Miracle Man is a really, really interesting story. It was created in the late 60s into the early 70s. And the idea is that when the writer has finished writing Miracle Man, you pass it on to the next person legally. So they own the rights to that.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Okay. So Alan Moore owned it for a while and wrote stuff on it, and the Alan Moore Miracle Man is, holy shit, it's something else. It is absolutely incredible. And eventually...
Does Alan Moore hate it because he hates everything he makes?
No, it's one of his things that he still looks back fondly.
Oh, wow.
But then Alan Moore actually still really looks back fondly on his Swamp Thing.
Whenever I hear of Alan Moore, no one ever says Alan Moore is happy, though.
Alan Moore isn't happy. Alan Moore is a strange individual. However, his new book is absolutely brilliant, and I recommend anyone to read it.
Alan Moore is always almost described to me as Clint Eastwood. You know how Clint Eastwood always plays the old asshole who hates everybody? That's how Alan Moore always comes across as well.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the Warren Ellis talking about Alan Moore's phone calls?
No.
We'll get back to Miracle Man in a minute. Wonderful thing. It's he'll get a phone call at like 11:30, and it's Alan Moore on the other side, and he just goes, "Well, Warren, I've decided that I'm going to start a diet. Instead of smoking 27 joints a day, I'm only going to smoke 20.
Wow.
All right, Alan, that's really good to hear. Now, I've got a couple of things. I've started digging a hole under my house.
Okay.
What? Why? Yeah, it's my cave to do magic in.
Well, to be fair, if he's currently doing 27 joints a day, I mean, that just makes sense what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all right.
And, of course, Alan Moore also got into a magical fight with Grant Morrison.
Oh, my God.
So they were fighting magically with each other through the medium of comics. Because they would mirror each other's work and then proceed to attack each other through it. And apparently that was a magical fight. Huh. Alan Moore is great. I love Alan Moore. I think he's a really interesting guy. It's one of those things where I really like Alan Moore. Can't stand Grant Morrison.
Yeah.
I just think Grant Morrison's a bit up himself. But anyhow, right. So, Miracle Man. Basically, McFarlane bought the company type thing that owned parts of Miracle Man, so he had a part of it. He thought he owned it outright. Didn't. Neil Gaiman actually owned it. So Neil Gaiman and him got into a fight again. And yeah, all this stuff happens. It's an absolute mess. Gets sorted out. And thankfully, one of the things that came out of that was Spawn the Dark Ages reverts completely back to McFarlane. And Miracle Man reverts completely back to Neil Gaiman, and everything is all solved. And then we get Spawn the Dark Ages, which is a really interesting idea on how to do a swords and sorcery fantasy comic in 2001.
Damn, this came out 2001?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's really, really interesting to see that, because if you think about what the comics landscape looked at 2001, you had this really strange explosion of independent creators, but also a shrinking market because the Marvel and DC bubble had completely burst, and comics were fairly worthless. A lot of people buying it for investments, realizing that the investment was worthless, and then it just makes a huge, massive issue with the market. So you have that shrinking of the market. But then you get guys like CrossGen coming out, Top Bull. There's tons and tons and tons of these guys appearing. And a lot of them, even though I would go out and say, sorry, not Top Bull, Top Cow, I would say that a lot of this stuff hasn't stood the test of time.
Yeah.
There are a ton of really fascinating snapshots into what the medium was trying to do in order to sustain itself. And as I say, some of it doesn't work, and some of it you look back now and go, looking at you, Dark Child. But it is a fascinating thing to archive and to get into. That's I could get into more there, but I realised that every time I open my mouth, another 40 threads start appearing in my brain. So
Gruff, this is you. Come on now. This is how this works.
Unfortunately, you'd end up with an 8-hour show as I just get into the into the entirety of what was happening in the comic market in 2001. Yes.
Well, something tells me you don't usually get to talk about early 2000, late 90s comics frequently during your day-to-day life.
No, I really don't. And it is something I've got a lot of far too much knowledge about. I don't remember how algebra works, but I can tell you all about cross-gen.
Well,
Nobody remembers cross-gen.
How often do you need algebra? How often do you need cross-gen? I think the answer points itself out. Right, so Spawn: The Dark Ages. It's broken up into a few story arcs, I suppose. Yeah. You have the first 6 issues doing effectively the origin story and a kind of a sequel to the origin story. You have issues 6 to about 8 of a side story. I would say basically issues 1 to 8, not very good. Not very good. Kind of rough to read through. Certainly, like let's talk about the introduction of Spawn. Let's the first how many issues is that first opening arc really? 5?
Let's have a quick look. See, I think it's
it's 5 issues. Yeah. I would say I really didn't. I was disappointed. I thought, oh no, Gruff's given me a stinker that he really loves. Oh god. The reason I have such issue with the first 5 issues of Spawn is because it feels very, very similar to Spawn, just like the intro of Spawn. It covers far too many of the exact same elements. So if you know Spawn or you have the basic idea of how Spawn goes, this does that. Crusader, Lord Covenant, what's his first name? Barry Covenant? Barry Covenant goes off to do crusading, kills a load of Muslims because that's what they do during the Crusade. Have a good old time down there. Stands before God, and God's like, nah, bro, I don't love you anymore. And he gets sent to hell, and he's like, wow, I don't want to die. He gets sent back to Earth as a Hellspawn, kills a few people, and he goes after his Wanda, or he tries to find his Wanda. Doesn't work. He tries to regain his kingdom. Doesn't work. Some witches come. I suppose the interesting element are the witches, because they're never talked about again, oddly enough.
Yeah, they kind of vanish, don't they?
Yeah. We have Cagliostro introduced as well, who is Cagliostro from the original Spawn series. And we have, oh god, what's his name from proper Spawn? His like arch nemesis.
Malbosia.
No, human enemy. His friend who killed him in the real world to send him
Jason
to hell.
Wynn.
Yeah, no. The actual the Jason Wynn, if I remember, was the company guy. I mean, the soldier guy that killed him, who was then taken over to Wild Force. Wildcats.
Yeah. Youngblood is the
Youngblood
thing he was in. Yeah, you're talking about Chapel.
Yes, Chapel. Yes, there is a Chapel-like character in here.
Who's my god,
not 100% Chapel, but
yeah, Chapel was the first person who killed him. There was. They then changed it so it's Jessica Priest, the character from the movie, had actually killed him, and then somebody else had actually killed him later on. So yeah, that's why my brain was short-circuiting there as I was trying to remember.
Because there are at least 3 different origins to who kills Spawn first in the main Spawn. Yeah, no, I remember it as Chapel because that's who did it in the cartoon. And
yes, that's right.
You are right. It was the lady in the Spawn movie, but we don't remember the Spawn movie because it was a movie. Bless them.
It wasn't.
Here's something you can say if you went back to it, because we were talking about it before the show started. You could watch Spawn, then watch Venom. You'll enjoy Venom.
Absolutely, yeah. If you watch something truly, truly despicable like The Predator, and then watch Venom straight after, you'll think Venom was actually quite a decent film.
I could believe that, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Venom's not terrible. Venom's very like late 90s hero movie.
Yeah. It is absolutely fine.
It's not Steel, you know?
Oh, shame.
Shaq isn't in it.
Shaq isn't in it wearing like weird PVC. You know?
Yeah.
Doesn't have any powers, just got a magnet. Yeah.
You don't need powers when you got power of magnetism.
Yeah, I really like the shaft on this.
Oh God! What do you think of
Richard
the introduction then of Dark Ages Spawn, Barry Covenant? What do you think of it?
So I came back into this, and it's one I've read quite often, to be honest with you. And I don't disagree that this is a very convoluted, overwrought, wordy intro to a character.
I expected wordy because it was like 90s or like late 2000s or early 2000s. I expected wordy, and it's not quite as wordy as some Transformer comics I've read in the past. But there were definitely points where it's like they are just talking. Nothing's being said, but they are just talking. Yeah.
I think one of the things I like about it, I do like the language that's used in it.
Yeah.
There's a line in the first issue. Where's my note? When the graveyard cast open their stony jaws and the devil walks the night, on such a night, who can say what accursed thing hell might spit out upon the world? A creature, a man, but somehow less than human, or perhaps more. And it's like, it's so cheesy, but it's so good.
I think it's appropriate as well, because the thing I did enjoy, the one element I did enjoy about the early aspects of the Dark Ages comics was the framing of the story. It was a tale told, and I think that kind of carries through. It's kind of dropped later on, but most of the Dark Ages book is told as like somebody recounting a tale to somebody else, which I like the premise of. Like I say, they kind of dropped that later on, but luckily the story's more interesting by the later half, so I didn't miss it too much.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of the art style for the opening arc?
Oh, we're going for the art style. Okay. Okay.
It's a beast of two parts, like, isn't it?
It is, right. So I like it, but also hate it.
Yep. With you on that. Completely with you.
I love the ring, but I also hate the ring. So why is that? I like it because when artwork gets bad in modern day, or it gets lazy, there's nothing on the page. Like, you look at, there are some comics, I'm not going to name names because I don't have any on hand I could point at and go, that one. But there are some comics that you read, and a panel will just be a person on the page, and there's no background. There's maybe a gradient for the background. And the character will be drawn in a very simplistic way. And sometimes they can look quite dull and quite boring. That's how some, not all, some modern comics have done this stuff. And I find that really just not engaging. This goes in a very different direction. There's always something on the page. It's messy. It gets very messy, but is visually interesting a lot of the time.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's very inconsistent with its like proportions or its shapes. Things kind of bob and weave and melt up and down all the time. It's sometimes incredibly difficult to read.
Yes, I agree with you there.
But again, like I say, there's always something that you're like, what the fuck is that? And even if it is, what the fuck is that? It's interesting to look at, which I appreciate.
It's a really weird one. It's when you look at like the introduction of Cog, for example, Cogliostro, it is rendered beautifully. It's so dark. And you've got this wonderful early bloom effect that's taking part, so you can see where the sun's coming down on him. And then you skip forward a page or two, and you have this guy, DeBlanc, and his the Lord of the Manor talking, and it doesn't even look like it's the same person that's done the artwork. It feels very, very different. It feels more like a the guy Mike Turner who created Fathom. It looks like that. It's very much a style of the time. And then you cross the page again, and you've got the witches, and you've got a very different feeling in it. It's back to being dirty and unsettling. And then you've got a big naked witch wearing only boots with really long claws, and you just, what the hell is going on here?
It's there for the plot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then you turn the page again, and you get the woods and the crossroads and the graveyard, and that is such a stunning page as Lord Covenant starts coming out of the grave and comes back to life. It's just, what the hell is going on here? It's not that it's inconsistent; it's that it it's trying to do far too many things at once, I think. Yeah, it's trying desperately to do that grimdark, really over-rendered feel, but then realize that you can't do that for some other characters, and so it gets pulled back for the Mike Turner style look, and then it gets pushed forward again, and you're just doing a little too many things here, I think.
Yeah, another good example of like really overdone detailing wise is the first shot, or the first page in the village tavern, where you've got this close up of a guy with a little side hat on, and like he's got this big like chin beard, goes all the way down from his sideburns to his chin, and they've gone crazy with the hatcheting like details on his face, crazy. And then you kind of look to the next panel. They obviously have to clean it up because it's a mid shot. Then they switch to a boy who's like, I guess, even though he's in a dark room, it's quite bright and well lit. And the next panel, there's no light at all. It again, like you say, goes back and forth. It's very strange. I will say, I think it's inconsistent in how characters look, because I think the witches do not look. Most of the time I've looked at the witches, I don't go, oh, it's that witch, it's that witch, it's that witch. It almost feels like they change, and I don't know if that's a deliberate thing or if that's just
I always read it as a deliberate thing, because I think they're trying to hit the mother, the maiden, and the crone idea.
I mean, it's being very, it's being very kind to suggest that, because it could just be a fuck up with. I mean, if it is the case, that is quite cool, but I don't think it's really presented as such.
No, it's. I think the witches don't work.
I guess that's why they were dropped, because they vanish.
Oh yeah. They do. They go quick. I mean, they're there for a plot point in order for Lord Covenant to be able to kind of power himself up, basically, aren't they? Yeah, for him to accept his fate and just go badoong.
I feel that they almost, not 100%, but they almost serve a mild Violator-esque role. They're the first like non-human element that he fights that he just can't win against. He gets the shit kicked out of him. It's not obviously exactly the same. We do see the Violator come in later as well, but it's the idea. Also, when we see him and Malbolgia in the big green page, not what you would think of Malbolgia. It's an interesting way that they've rendered it.
It is. I really like that page. I think that version of Malbolgia, it's enough of a satanic look so you can kind of, the story gets told of what it is. It doesn't look anything like Malbolgia.
No.
At all. But it does look like the front of like an Iced Earth album cover, and that's enough for me.
Yes. Do you ever get mildly concerned for the female demon? Because like her tail wraps around her front leg, and I'm like, she's tying herself up. She's going to trip over.
Yeah, I thought that the first thing that happened after that precarious mushroom rock that they're all standing on is that she would turn around and just fall right over.
Yep.
Like, oh, no.
Yeah, at kind of style from Empire Strikes Back.
Hang on. Is that the ship? Is that... Right, the rock that they're standing on, is it a rock or is it the ship from Alien?
Oh, I thought it was like a penis, because you see the bit she's on. She's on the shaft and the helmet, and he's on the testicles.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
It's hell. They're balls there. You know how it goes.
I do like how the female demon's got a really long tail, and the male demon's got this horrible shitty tail. It's like...
Yeah. It's not the size that matters, Gruff, what can I tell you?
It makes it look like I'm doing a little poo.
No, I got really big horns, so I'm cool.
Story-wise, though, I think that this is 2 issues too long for the introduction.
Yeah.
It spends too much time. The original Spawn did it as well, though, and I think that's probably why. It spends too much time doing no, this isn't what happened, I'm not like this anymore, I'm not a monster. Before accepting that he is a monster and he's going to go and push somebody's shit in. And I think it just takes a little too long to get going. Now, what's interesting is it only feels that way in the collected editions. I remember getting this month to month, and it didn't feel like it went on too long.
I suppose that's because it's spread out over like 5 months at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And it's very decompressed storytelling in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because it's letting the feel of it soak in rather than, getting a story of getting from A to B. It's like the story starts at A and it has to get to B, but it's going to spend 5 issues trying to get you into the feel of it rather than tell the complete story, if that makes sense. I don't think that it works now, but I remember it working then. Now,
it's probably because you were younger as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, very, very much so. I mean, 19, 18, something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very much into it. As I say, it was so unlike anything else that I was reading at the time that, I am going to get really soaked into it. I've just got a page open here, and it's exactly what I've just been talking about. It's in the 3rd issue, and it's the little boy at the bottom carrying the water, and you've got the guy with the beard from the earlier issue, and he's massively over-rendered, and the boy has absolutely nothing done to him.
Yeah. It is like they're trying to get across that he's aged, but it's just too much in a lot of ways.
It kind of makes me think of the Fable, actually, now I'm looking at it here.
The Fable?
Fable, the game.
Oh, the game, okay.
So if you ever saw the sketches and designs that came off of Fable, they looked a lot like this, which is weird. Anyway, not to worry. But yeah, as I say, story-wise, it goes on a little too long and it spends a little too much time being decompressed, and as a result, some of the story hooks don't really hit. Like the entire thing of the Lord of the man and his wife, Eloise, who had the mysterious sickness and not stirred for days, and he turned to the dark forces in order to bring her back to life. And it's like, okay, that should have been something a bit bigger than that.
Yeah, because nothing comes of it. I can't remember, is the Lord killed?
He is killed eventually, yes,
okay.
Towards the end of this arc, yeah.
Because his wife just dies as well, doesn't she? But she dies off panel or something.
Yeah. She dies, he loses his mind and then gets killed by Spawn, while Dublanc gets the big cursed helmet and goes off to be the big old dick of the series.
Kinda, but then this gets shelved as well in a lot of ways.
Well, I think if this had continued, it would ended up he would be like the Redeemer style character, where he would get powered up and go after Spawn and be able to fight him like face to face.
Yes, because like for the most part, when he pops up in the story, I would describe him as like your son being your mortal enemy. Like he can hurt you, but it's more of an annoyance than it is anything else. You're like, no, don't do that.
Well, he spends most of this just like chasing down rumors, doesn't he, of Spawn, of the,
pretty much.
The Lord Covenant, just like, hey, where's he at? He's over there.
I do like him swearing at Spawn and calling him a shit eater and stuff like that. That's quite funny, but Spawn's response most of the time is, go away. Don't have time for this. I want to be sad.
Did you feel at the beginning of this that somebody had recently watched Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and that's where the idea of it came from?
No, but I like the idea of that. I wonder if maybe that's where they get the writing from, at least the shit eater and insults from. I don't know.
Maybe. There's something about that first issue which makes me think of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. But like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves put through like the shit filter, you know?
Yeah. I think this would have definitely had some benefits of not following the normal Spawn storyline as adherently as they do. I think that's a big detriment to this, because it's meant to be its own thing, and yet it starts off exactly the same as Spawn. So it's like, well, do something else, something a bit more unique with it, is what I would have said.
Absolutely. I mean, there was a series called Curse of the Spawn, which was a anthology series.
I think I had a toy of him, or I looked at toys of Curse of Spawn, and he looked great.
The Curse is great.
Is he the one that's like black body, but then like these orange, like tendril bone bits coming off of his skin?
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, he looked great. I remember wanting that figure so bad as a kid.
Yeah, I never got him, actually. It was when I was really getting into like proper action figure collecting and stuff in the around about this time, actually. I remember I was looking in Toy Fair at what McFarlane had coming out and just going, oh my god.
It's weird because I got into toy collecting, or at least the idea of like, I like toys a lot more than I maybe should do, around that that time period as well. But then I think Tod Mcfarlane's toy company also put me off getting toys as they moved from more toys to statues. And I went, I don't want these.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely correct there. So when they started doing like the sports stars and the movie maniacs, and they stopped being.
Well, I'm thinking of like I had a medieval Spawn that came with a big horse, but he was stuck in a pose where he had his axe raised above his head.
Yeah.
So you could only turn the bicep, and it wasn't a bicep swivel; it was a cut directly through the bicep itself.
Yeah,
and you could turn that, and that was pretty much all you could do with him. It's like,
no, yeah, it's because they started doing these really hyper detailed like movie maniacs and sports characters, like sports stars and stuff, and as a result,
and the Alice in Wonderland stuff, right?
Oh, Jesus Christ! Yeah,
they were really cool.
Yeah, bloody hell!
Yeah.
Do you remember they had a Blair Witch toy?
No, I don't. What, of the actual witch?
Yeah.
No, I want to say I think I remember the idea that they did it, but I don't remember anything about what it looks like.
It's just an old scary crone woman.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's nothing spectacular, but it's the weirdest thing of here's a toy of the Blair Witch,
but we don't see it. Whatever.
But for all intents and purposes, this is a character that doesn't actually exist.
It could be. What if they just made a gnome?
Oh, that would have been so good
for the Blair Witch.
I've always said the actual antagonist of the first Blair Witch film is a haunted plank of wood. Because all that ever happens to people is they get clonked on the back of the head by a piece of wood. It's
my God.
Clonk. Yeah, there you go.
Is the wood sentient in your world?
It's Plank from Ed, Edd and Eddy, basically.
Oh, okay, so it does have a little face on it, okay.
Yeah. And it's sentient. Filled with demons.
And woody rage.
I'm full of more planky aplomb than you'll ever be.
Is there anything else to say about the first half of this, the first part of the Spawn story, the introduction of Spawn?
Yeah, so...
Or do you have anything? I should have said that's a better way to phrase it.
So, as it goes along, the art style really does settle down a bit, but it gets a little bit too cartoony. So when you get to like DeBlanc and Lord Covenant actually having a fight, oh my God, I'm looking at the picture now.
Is this issue 3 or issue 4, something like that?
Issue 3. I'm looking at mostly. So what you end up with is a cartoony cutout that's hyper detailed rather than the heavily rendered look that we've had earlier. And this is where it really falls down for me for this early part, because it looks absolutely fucking atrocious. DeBlanc is bigger than Bane on the old Nightfall covers.
Oh yeah, he's huge.
Which, when you see him like a couple of issues earlier, he's just a normal sized man.
Yeah.
And it's oh dear, oh no. Then you get the angel turns up, mistaking DeBlanc for the Hellspawn, and it all just kind of goes a little bit wrong there, doesn't it? It's like, oh God, I've just tried to kill a mortal person. That's against everything that I stand for. I'm going to now leave this guy bleeding to death as I go off to try and kill an actual...
he was an asshole, whatever, it's fine.
He was, but I like the reaction that she has of, oh shitty balls.
I actually preferred that second story arc of like the intro. Again, because I always only got up to the Angela is introduced part of Spawn.
Yeah,
I never saw after, so I don't know how close this is to that stuff. But I preferred this because it felt a bit more interesting. Like you had the conflict of this church girl who's like super religious and face planting the floor as much as she can because she's like, "Oh God, I'm sorry," and everyone's like, "Bitch, you're fine. Stop complaining." Because she knows what she's done, but nobody else does. Barry Covenant saving the Prego woman. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's okay. Is the assumption that the Hellspawn that beat the Angel Cagliostro? Is that the idea?
Yeah. That's what it's trying to say. Yeah,
I thought so. Yeah, I didn't mind this story as much. It's a one, like if I was to convert this into a TV episode, this is a random one-off like third episode. Like you have the 2-part introduction. This is just your random throwaway third episode where it's just like, he's a random concept. We've got an angel. Don't worry, she dies, so it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. everything that's about it's fine. It's a bit flat and stereotypical. There's not much to these two issues, but it's okay as a random little side adventure, I would say.
Yeah. I've realised, of course, I actually completely forgot to go back to the end of the last story and just try to say, hey, Andy,
yeah,
what did you think of the artwork when it goes real fucking weird?
Which part?
The entirety of what's his name? The Lord guy who then kind of gets haunted, and the art just goes real fucking strange.
Yeah, there's like one panel where like he is really tiny legged and he's got a huge like goblin head and he's holding like this weird goblin child baby thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I didn't mind it. It looks messy, but it's meant to be like a dream or nightmare. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like the idea that, shit in dreams looks weird, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And it's like the spirits, like when they're kind of hovering and looming over him and looking a little bit like a weird xenomorph kind of things. I thought that was an interesting way of like forming nightmares together and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I don't think visually it looks great. It looks a bit, again, messy. But I think trying to convey like the weirdness of a nightmare is okay. I think the problem is where you go from the weird goblin fat baby mode to the next page of it be the very blue page and it being very different looking. It's again a bit jarring. I think even if you're doing weird imagery and weird art style, you should keep that style consistent, because then the next page, the red page, is kind of back to a slightly more normal styled Spawn look.
Yeah. It's back to the style that the rest of the story continues with.
Yeah.
So here's what I was thinking when I was going through this in preparation for talking about this with you. Doesn't the weird goblin page look like it was drawn by AI?
Yes, the hands are the giveaway. Yep.
It's real fucking weird, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Have you noticed he doesn't have toes? It's like the AI cut off the feet because they're like, no, I can't be bothered.
Yeah. It's really weird how much that looks like something that like Stable Diffusion would come up with.
That's so strange.
Isn't it?
Huh. Do you think the second last page, the one where it's his face close up, looks a little bit like a reference to Nightmare on Elm Street, the poster?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know if that's what they're going for, but I get that feeling. A little bit, at least.
It's, once again, this is just making me think of Stable Diffusion with the way that the eyes are kind of like rolling into each other.
And there's just like a second set of eyes just off to the side, like the computer doubled it but forgot and just left it there and went, it's fine.
Yeah. But then, of course, you got that all the towers below him, they're all running at different perpendicular angles.
Yeah.
So it's like, that looks to me like it's a...
They don't even look like towers, though. They're just like little round houses with big tops on them.
Little arrowheads. It's so strange.
It is. No, I mean, that's the art style, isn't it? It's,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So if we jump forward to the end of the nun story where the nun gets the powers of God and goes off and kicks the shit out of a... we'll call him a brigand. Which, of course, does have the amazing picture of the giant monster Grecian Spawn, I think he's meant to be. I'm not entirely sure.
I think it's Grecian because it looks like he's got like a Medusa chest plate or styled chest plate.
Holy shit. I've owned these issues for like 20 years. I've never realised that was Medusa.
Oh, really? Okay.
Round of applause to you there, Andy.
Yay!
Because once you get to the end of this story, it's you kind of get a certain shift, I think is maybe the best way of putting it. The big, giant, monstrous look of the comic changes big time. Hang on, let me just I'm just trying to get this thing to load up. There we go. Oh, sorry, I'm actually ahead of myself there. I do apologise.
That's fine.
Yeah, there's the other story after it. All right, so sorry, Joe. Can we just cut that last bit out?
No. It's interesting. No matter what you were saying, it was good.
Okay, fine. I'll continue. So, yeah, the art has kind of settled into its own strange thing at this point. With the heavy black outlines and the slightly cardboardy look, and everything's got a more exaggerated comic book look, which it didn't have originally.
It becomes slightly less inconsistent. It still gets a bit messy here and there, but I think, again, after this point, like you say, I think it really does thankfully settle down, which is good.
It does, but I think it settles down in the wrong way.
Oh, why is that?
Because it starts looking more comic booky.
Ah, okay.
And I quite like that original few issues, even though, yes, they are inconsistent. Yes, there is a lot of stuff in there which doesn't work. But when it does work, it looks incredible. It looks astonishingly. You can smell the shit on people's shoes. You know, you can feel the dirt and the grime of it and that weird otherworldly nature. When it kind of settles down a bit, it looks like a comic book, if that makes sense.
See, I would say my favorite art style, or at least the way that they color it, is like from issue 11 through that story, the sepia tone kind of browny and white and black coloring. I think that's for me my preferred part of the artwork.
I agree wholeheartedly. That is where it becomes its own thing. I was going to come to that later on.
Okay, sorry.
But it's just for the arc that we're on now, this kind of secondary arc. It just looks... It doesn't pull me in as much.
Oh, sorry. When you say the second arc, do you mean the angel nun story?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yes, I would agree that doesn't look... I mean,
I mean, technically, there's nothing wrong with it at all.
Well, right? I'm sure you could say technically there's a lot wrong with it, but I know what you mean. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad art in any way, shape, or form. It's just as a match to the comic and to the story it's telling, it just feels a little bit generic. Is the way I'll explain it.
I would say it is bad art in places, but I don't mind the style. I think that's... As long as you go with the style's weird and you don't really care about proportions or stuff like that, and you kind of take the style over the substance, it can be quite fun.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I enjoy it. I enjoy everything in this series because I'm a giant glutton for punishment. But I think this is the weakest run for me is this second, the warrior nun, the angel nun story.
You mean like story-wise and visually kind of deal?
Yeah, because I think whilst there is good stuff in there, it doesn't grab me as much as that first arc did. That first arc is messy. Yes, absolutely it is. It's inconsistent. Absolutely it is. But it doesn't have grab your attention.
Yeah.
The second arc, it just kind of breezes through. It's just do. There we go. And I think that's down to the way it's portrayed. Once again, I will say I don't think it's bad in any way, shape, or form, but it feels like a little bit of a disconnection between what we've already seen and then what this arc does. Again,
it's almost like, I don't want to say they phoned it in, but it's just like we have to talk about the angels. We'll never talk about them again. Just mention it and we'll get rid of it. Yeah. We're done. Okay, no more angels.
Get it done in 3 issues and get it out of the way.
Yeah. We've talked about it. Cagliastro's mentioned it, and it won't have... I don't know why it has no importance on the story in the future. Aren't they meant... Can't they have like multiple angels on Earth, whereas they can only have one Hellspawn?
Yeah, the angels, they have to get a permit from God, who's a tiny little woman, and then they... I'm not kidding. That's a thing that's actually in Spawn. And, off they go to hunt Hellspawn. The issue where Spawn meets God is absolutely brilliant.
I don't think it would have had the same impact as if he met the God from South Park. Weird platypus beaver thing.
So, whilst we've kind of been talking into what's right and wrong about it, the basic premise for the second arc is that a religious orphan basically is given the power of God to go off and hunt the Hellspawn. She gets it wrong, starts beating up DeBlanc, because DeBlanc is now dressed up as a big demon-y guy, realizes her mistake, goes after Spawn, gets absolutely obsessed with the hunt, realizes that she has inadvertently put a lot of people in danger in order to hunt the spawn. Sacrifices herself basically to save a child from a burning building. Spawn is just like, oh well, thanks for the kid, bye. And then Cog just turns up. Coglioso turns up and absolutely pisses on her parade. This poor lass is underneath a burning building, and Cog just sticks his head in and starts insulting her.
Yeah.
It's like,
and then it suggests that he kills her, but we don't really see it.
No, we don't.
He just said his last line is, "I've wanted to do this for years," and then it ends, and you're like, "I guess he killed her."
Well, it's after he took a shit in her mouth.
To be fair, that's a good way to finish off your enemy who try to kill you. Take a giant turd on them. It's like, oh.
You might be burning to death, but I'm going to choke you with my poo. Exactly.
You know, the end where the premise of the story was the nun is telling the baby who was saved about it. Do you know how you make the end a bit more biting, but without any sense? So you'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? All you need to do is desaturate the face of this nun. Mm-hmm. You paint blue around her eyes and red for the lips, and with a bigger smile, and you make it clown for no reason. No reason, but then you'd be like, what the fuck? That's clown? What?
That would be absolutely brilliant.
It'd be stupid. You'd be like, what?
I always thought it would be a really good ending. You know where it says, come little one, it is nearly time for Vespers.
Oh, yes.
The
cars. She's just shown her to a car.
I would thought it would be better if, instead of that, it's the little girls saying, come on, Nana, it's time for you to take your meds.
She's not holding flowers, she's holding a bottle of pills.
Yeah, exactly that, yeah. So there was some opium.
Wow. Gran.
So then we get into the next story arc.
A Child's Crusade.
Right, I fucking love this.
I liked it after this. I think I was getting really bored of reading Dark Age of Spawn, so I kind of breezed through this because I was just like, all right, here we go. There was a lot. I think another reason why it didn't hold my attention was it felt like there were more words in this than in previous issues. There wasn't much Spawn, and it was all kind of told as a play. Which is that's the entire premise of this issue. It's a recreation of what we later learn. We find out the real story later on. And I think at that point, because of what I'd seen before, I was just like, oh, come on. Can we just get on with the story stuff? But this is an important issue. This is the issue I'd like. If someone said, hey, Andy, I want to read Spawn the Dark Ages, I just say, start from this issue. If you know Spawn, if you know how Spawn came to be, if you know the basic idea of Spawn, just start from issue 9 and just read from there.
Absolutely.
And I think you could easily get on with it. Also, Spawn's weird helmet inconsistencies throughout the entire series.
Well, Spawn himself changes a lot.
Yeah, frequently.
And it's a very, very weird one.
They do like to keep him kind of Baney arm look of the 90s, which is just, I have 5,000 veins per muscle.
Yeah. And it's just it looks painful to exist.
They show Spawn trapped in a tree, and it's like, so what's the tree, what's the chains, and what's Spawn? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I do like him being in the tree, that he just decided to sit there and a tree grew up around him.
Yes.
That's such a ridiculous and wonderful idea.
It's a little bit, at least we haven't seen Lord Barry Covenant be as sad as Al Simmons. I think the problem with Al Simmons, at least the Spawn run of Al Simmons, is there's a lot of him just going, Wanda. Oh,
yeah.
Wanda. It's get over it. Come on now.
Those first 50 issues of Spawn it's atrocious for it.
Yeah, just get,
Wanda. But of course, that does then give us the amazing thing of Keith David just screaming Wanda into a microphone for the Spawn animated series.
Yeah.
Wonder! So, and Keith David makes my ears turn to butter. So
he's very good.
Mm-hmm,
very good.
Always upsets me that there isn't any form of animation out there where it's Keith David, Ron Perlman, Jim Curry, and oh my god, I forgot the guy's name. Played Megabyte.
Tony J.
Tony J. Thank you.
Yeah.
There is no animated film out there with the three of them talking.
There won't ever be now.
No.
I think you could have got that cast easily for like I could see it working for like Hellboy. Hellboy probably could have used all of those guys quite well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Oh, that would have been great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Now I'm sad.
Yeah. So what's the premise of the play that's been told to young Spawn since good old Barry Covenant's gone to town and he's like, I'll go see a play.
So basically, it's a play about a child, the Maeve the Innocent, who raised an army in the name of God. And Spawn goes, that's not how it worked. I was there. Which nowadays reminds me of Spike from Buffy with the entire, if every vampire who said he was at the crucifixion was actually there, it would be like Woodstock. I was at Woodstock. I ate a hippie and spent 4 hours watching my hand move. But it's a really interesting framing idea. I like it when stuff does things like this, where it plays with a narration. I don't think it takes it to its logical conclusion with this idea, this concept, but the idea of here's a play of plucky Maeve the Innocent. She was the right hand of God. She did all these things. And Spawn just goes, fucking wasn't. She was a bitch. she was an absolute asshole and a pain in my side. Why would you say all this? And the play, of course, does what all like historical plays do for that period. It stops being historically accurate and goes off to be entertaining.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that is something that continues to this day, but look at every AAA Oscar-nominated movie. Anyhow, and it does a lot of interesting things that I really like. I like the entire sequence with the guy playing the devil, sort of hanging around Maeve on the stage. It's real mummers stuff, and it shows that the guys who wrote this knew what they were talking about when it came to how these plays were put on. And it's really cool. But the way it kind of flashes back and forth to Barry Covenant,
yep,
just like getting more and more pissed off as this goes. And the devil's like, the father of lies have led her to her doom. And he just stands up, taking up more space than like the next 3 seats, and just goes, fucking stop it. I am going to absolutely... No, I'm going to punch you in the face anyhow. And of course, the girl playing Maeve just sits up from her funeral shroud and goes, what's going on?
Well, to be fair, someone starts kicking off in the crowd, you'd be like, what the fuck's happening?
Yeah.
Like in that scene of Gangs of New York where the dude comes in and shoots the dude with the mustache.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's like, oh, okay, all right, okay, well, this is different.
That's so good. But there is a really nice little sequence here. You've got the guy being knifed to the wall. It's like, please, good sir, we mean no offence. This is but a jest, a diversion. There is no harm in it. Da-dunk! Although you are free, of course, to disagree. I really like that. As it then turns into the get out, all of you. This pageant of lies will not continue. The show is over. Go. And you've got the two at the bottom. Well, this show has taken an unexpected turn. I quite like the shouting. Good shouter.
I want my bloody money back. Fuck. It's weird because I would describe this particular issue, in my head, it feels like the first 5-minute opening of a TV episode before you actually go into the past to see what actually happened.
Would you like to know an interesting thing about this issue?
No, but go on then.
So, as I understand it, this issue was originally meant to be a freebie issue.
That makes sense.
And
it feels like it should be a freebie one in a lot of ways.
And then it was expanded and just put into the series proper. This is how I understand it. Because Wizard at the time were trying to get out as many issue zeros as they could for different things. And Wizard basically went, well, shit, that's a little too violent for us to be giving out.
It wasn't even that violent.
But you can see where they're coming from.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah.
Which is really interesting because they put out Deadpool Zero, which is horrendously violent.
I was going to say, hang on.
Yeah, which involves the climax of that story, Deadpool shooting at Uncle Ben and Aunt May. Because he got to see them bumping uglies, and he just goes, "Oh, the liver spots!" and starts shooting.
Good old Deadpool.
I wish I kept Deadpool 0. It is so funny. Oh, you wear a yellow suit and call yourself the Wizard. It was really fun. But yeah, anyhow, that's kind of what this issue was meant to be, and how I understand it was, it basically got turned back, and they had to then expand it out quickly and get it out as a full issue.
Yeah, that would maybe explain some of the issues I have with it if it was just meant to be like a quickie. Because, like I say, after this, I think Spawn the Dark Ages actually finally started to get my interest, and I started getting invested in the story, and obviously the artwork as well. It was a combination of the story being cool and the artwork being kind of interesting, more engaging as well. Especially that first page of like the lightning storm. That's really nice.
Oh, God, yeah. So this is where it gets excellent.
Yes.
Right? This is it. This is the tipping point. I've said everything I need to say about everything that's gone before. This is where I start to really wax lyrical, and this is why I wanted Andy to read it. With issue 10, The Questing Tale, The Child's Crusade Part 1, what you get is something completely unlike... I apologise for the sound that just happened there. I think the police are coming to get me for everything I've just said about Tod Mcfarlane. Yeah, what you get here is something unlike anything that was on the shelves at the time. So... it's sepia-toned. It's got even though it is done in a comic book style, the way it's rendered gives it this really old, parchmenty feel. Yeah. It's got a real sense of something ancient. And it's I
wish they went back and used the sepia tone more frequently, but it's only for like a few pages that they do it, unfortunately.
Yeah, but the colours are muted from this point on.
Yeah.
And it gives it such a wonderful look. There's certain sequences which it feels almost like stained glass. You know, it's absolutely gorgeous, and it's all down to the coloring. The art style itself hasn't actually changed that much. It's a little less overly rendered. It's got a bit more of a defter hand when it comes to the outlining of people. They're not as thickly outlined as they were, but I'd say that goes for the background as well, because there's the page with Maeve just kind of dancing through the forest as women tend to do, as we know. But all of the bits of grass aren't like just blobs, which they would have been in the first 5 issues or so. There are a lot more, like you say, distinct shapes. Obviously, as the further you go into the background is what you would expect in the foreground of the first 5 issues. But you've got the branches of the trees, like the roots, and they're all individually like distinct and shaded as well, and have light sources hitting them, and it looks a lot more interesting visually. You get the page with like the bodies and stuff, and it's like legitimately unsettling. Yeah, it's just so good. So here's a question for you then, Andy. What do you feel of Maeve the Innocent as a character?
She feels like kind of one of those subversive Chosen One stories where they are... Yeah. I don't know whether they are actually the Chosen One, but they certainly believe it, and they have the charisma behind them to draw people towards them.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the story, you can go, was this the plan, or was it just like a girl who's kind of dealing with grief? I don't know.
I actually come down on the latter.
Really?
Yeah. There's a way that she speaks, and it's so charged with certain words that it kind of gives the feeling of obsession, that this is what she's doing now in order to keep herself busy, almost.
Well, there's also the aspect of it this time period as well, which is why I think it's a bit more ambiguous, because there's that a lot of like religious. I mean, look at the Crusades, which is what the story is based on. So it kind of goes back to that of like, if you believe you're doing something for God, you are 100% behind it. You're sure it's the real thing, and you're just going to do it. You just do it because God's on your side. And that's obviously why Spawn's like, I don't know.
Should I really be doing this? Should I really be doing this? Yeah. I really like the page where you see what it was actually like when she found him. So you got that strange art style change again. And instead of it being this, the tree has grown around him, he's just there hanging in the shadows.
Yeah, I would have liked maybe a small explanation of how. Because he didn't do that himself. Clearly he was crucified. Yeah,
I'm going to guess that either Cog did it, or...
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Or some people just went, you are evil, and he just didn't bother fighting them. She's there, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I like the page, like you say as well. The light coming from the torchlight beaming upwards, and he's just covered in cobwebs and stuff like that. Looks good.
Yeah,
it's a scene from a movie kind of thing. Easily,
it is. Yeah, I mean, it's so cinematic.
Yeah,
and you can hear the torch crackling. Yeah. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece of work.
The next time he's crucified, it doesn't look as good, I will say, later on in the story. And also, he's got a little bit more muscle mass in the next part when he gets crucified. Just a little bit more. He's just a little bit baned up there. But yeah, this is a very nice shot.
I also like the way he looks throughout the story. He's got like that cloaked look, and it just doesn't look as outright ridiculous as the last one.
No. Yeah, they kind of pulled back on the almost weird alien mask that he had helmet, because it does look more like an alien helmet. Some like in the theater episode, his helmet legitimately to me looks like something from The Brood.
Yeah,
but just a bit more metallic-y in a lot of ways, and it's a bit much.
It reminds me of something, and I can't quite put my fingers on it. Something about like an alien with like frills that comes out of its head. But I'm not sure what it is. I can see it in my head, but I don't know where it's from. Some 90s B movie, I'm guessing, Species or something. And it once you get into this one, and it settles into a much more, not realistic, because that's probably not the right term, but a more believable helmet. And a more believable style.
Yes, I would agree. I see. I'm in this weird place of it's probably a helmet, but I could also buy it as being his legitimate face as well. Because when we saw his skeletal face in the first issue, it looks like it could just kind of transfer over to just being this, having the weird art style that they've always gone for clearly in this comic book, and how things kind of warp and change. It could be in his face, but it could easily just be a mask again, like you say.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just one of those things where every time I come back to it, I just love what they do to him after he kind of got so big and veiny and veiny. That's what I'm going to classify him as. Having him look like just a big guy starts working a lot better.
Yes, I mean, he's still quite veiny, but it's not quite as aggressive as, because they kind of rebanify him again near the end of the story, I would say.
Yeah.
Or the trade. The trade.
Yeah, at the end of the collection.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of that, but the way he looks here, I think it's the best he ever looks.
Yes, he looks like what you would expect a Spawn to look like, because Spawns don't run on physical prowess, since they have hell powers and all that kind of jazz. Yeah. So they don't need to be overly big. They just need to be a strong boy. They don't need to be Bane big.
Well,
90s Bane big, I should say, because they get crazy.
Even that, it's 90s cover of Nightfall Bane big. Bane, it's a big guy, but he's not ridiculous like he is on the covers.
Oh, yeah. Where 90% of the, like, you see half of his back and, like, most of his chest, and then he's got this little tiny pea head.
Yeah, it's like, good God.
Don't get me wrong,
I love those covers, but oof. That's not how people work.
It's a style. Yeah.
It certainly is. Certainly is. But it's not just the size of Covenant either. It's the way he wears his armor and things. It's a more realistic take on armor rather than the huge comic book armor that he's wearing.
Yes.
In the last arc, which that thing gets outlandish. That gets into like World of Warcraft territory.
Oddly enough, I would say in this particular arc, he goes for more of a Conan the Barbarian, just on the basis that he does not have armor for his chest. He's just like, I'll get my boobs out and I'll just have cool pants and like maybe some forearm stuff, and that's it. That's all I need.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the only thing that's missing from here that I liked from the last set of armor that he had is he doesn't have his tartan anymore, which is like, oh,
yeah.
I like the tartan. That was really good. Just made me happy. So the story for this one is basically Spawn is there helping Maeve raise a army of children to go forth and kick the shit out of, pagans.
Were the pagans? I thought they were Scotsmen.
I mean...
Because Maeve, the reason Maeve does this is she has a vision that darkness is going to come and the king's shit. So he isn't going to do anything. So she has to raise an army to get rid of them. They fight the army and they lose. That's kind of that's a quick summation of what the story happens with the story.
Yeah, what she says is that she sees armies of darkness, which you kind of get the idea that they are the wild pagan gods from the north. You know that type of thing. So yes, it's Scotsmen, but it's also pagans.
Okay, silly pagans.
And as you've met Jai, you know that a giant hat with horns and everything would suit him. So
well, you know, kilt and a horn hat. Why not?
Absolutely. You know, you can just imagine Andrew Turnbull coming at you with a kilt and a broadsword.
I wouldn't be against it. I suppose, you know,
as long as he had his boobs out. Yeah.
It's weird because I thought there'd be more for this story because of the way that she described an army of darkness. I thought at least one of them would be hell influenced in a sense, but it's just big mean men, which is fine. It's just I thought there'd be a bit more hell involved. Yeah,
I think that what it's trying to do. Actually, I've just crossed a page and I come across one of the problems I do have with this story. We'll come back in a second. What I think they're trying to do is they're trying to keep it like they don't want to lock it down as this is exactly what they're fighting against.
Okay.
Because I think what they're aiming to do is say these other people aren't evil; they're just different. They're not
right.
They're just not the same. Because you get the entire sequence where the kid just starts going, "Holy shit! One of us died. I didn't think we were going to die."
Yeah.
And it's. I think that's quite a powerful thing to try and do. It's not a fight between good and evil, or even between order and chaos. It's that she has built this army to fight something that she doesn't understand, that doesn't think is different, and thus is scary. In the same way that Covenant went up and fought at Jerusalem, it's not because the Muslims were bad; it's because they were different, and he was led to believe that different is bad. I think that's where the juxtaposition between the two comes from.
I guess they do hammer it home a little bit more in, again, the later arcs where they talk about the Druid and the old gods, how they've been slowly kind of wiped out, and it's just, your gods are young. But we'll get to talking about that when we get to it.
So the problem I have is Maeve is about 15 or so, and there's a couple of panels where her clothes get tattered. And I don't like that at all. That makes me feel very uncomfortable.
I mean, it's the 90s,
I know, but even then, come on. I remember reading a book years and years ago, I can't remember what it was called now, where this character, this fantasy character comes from a fantasy world, and she's elvish, and she's like around about 14, 15, and then the main character sleeps with her, and I went, nope, and that book went straight in the bin.
How old's the main character?
About 30,
All right, yeah.
Like, well, I was kind of enjoying this until this point, and you're going in the fucking
To be
bin.
fair, if he's 40 or 30 in that time period, he's quite old as well.
Well, he was from our world, yes.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, he basically using Narnia for sex trafficking and sex tourism. It's not good. Not good. Didn't make me happy. So, yeah. So the the kid sort of realized that, we can actually die in this. It leads to a very interesting little monologue of they've lost their innocence. This is a heavy loss for a child. It's not rings and roses anymore. They've tasted death, and that's not easily washed away. And I really, really like how that works. It's Spawn's the one who's trying to explain, this is not a good thing. You shouldn't be doing this. I know this because I'm a Hellspawn here to spread misery. You're actually fucking doing it to kids without realizing. Yeah, I think that's very cool.
Yeah, but it's interesting the fact that you would have thought that they'd lose the children, but they don't. They get more because the kids have nothing. So it's just like, well, we may as well die in this crusade for God because at least it's something.
Yeah, and that's, I think, Spawn realizing that his worldview is, it's broken. It's not right. And it's whether that's the worldview he had when he was alive or the worldview he's got because he's now dead. Yeah, it's a difficult one to say, but I think it's a cool little moment for him and Maeve to have this sort of one-to-one conversation of going, well, this isn't going to work because these are kids. But the kids, as you say, they've got nothing. They are literal. The best they can hope for is that they can grow up to be shit farmers.
Yeah,
so it's like, right, so if we do this, we might have a better life ahead of us, or we're going to die and we don't lose anything. And,
but it's like if we die, we serve God, so he'll definitely be nice.
Mm-hmm. And what you don't get is that point of any of them sort of saying, well, maybe this isn't the right, maybe there's a better way of doing this. They just accept it and carry on. And it's like, yep, that's blind faith for you.
Well, yeah, in the face of complete hopelessness, you'll take anything, and the kids will take anything.
Yeah,
anything
absolutely.
at all. It's a nice little aspect of the story. It makes sense, because, I mean, you don't always see it done with kids. You usually see it done in, like, when the main character is imprisoned and he, like, inspires the prisoners to rise up and revolt against the prison guard, etc., etc. It's that kind of story. It's fine. I think it's good. And it's good to do with kids in this time period, because who would be the most hopeful to have a better life? Kids. But when they're in a really shitty situation, this is their only light. So it's like, yeah, okay, yeah. I like it.
Getting into Child's Crusade Part 3. Once again, we continue with that sepia tone, which looks really, really good.
Yes,
I haven't mentioned it earlier. I love these pages with the heavy designs around the borders.
That's great. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, they are absolutely gorgeous. I was meant to mention it earlier on and just...
Something I wish because on some pages, they have this kind of outline that makes it look like a book. Then others, they don't. I kind of wish they went a little bit heavier on that, because it does... I mean, this is effectively Spawn's retelling of the story, and I guess the reason why it's done in the sepia tone and why it's made to be more of a book is because this is the quote-unquote true version of the events. So it's almost like he's putting it down in a book, and thus it being in a book, it makes it quote-unquote real or truthful compared to the fanciful play.
Yeah.
We just needed more of it because I like it.
Absolutely. And yeah, Spawn's now baned up a little bit more than he had the last episode. But that furry cloak and everything, it's just so good.
It's good, yeah. Very, again, Conan-y.
Yeah, massively so. So yeah, the third part of the story, it's basically continuing the entirety of the crusade, and she starts going, so Maeve starts going, Lord Governor is trying to frighten us. He is evil. We are fighting for God. Look at him. Go, push him over. Go on, trip him up. Bastard.
Well, it's not so much that she says he's evil. It's more like he's testing us. It's like he's testing our faith, and they're like, okay, well, we won't go then. He might be big and scary, but he's he's just testing our faith. It's like, okay.
And Maeve continues to wear fucking corsets and G-strings.
Welcome to the 90s.
It upsets me. It upsets me a lot.
I don't really care personally, but I just remember the time period. It's just I remember the naked three witches. How old are they? I don't know.
Yeah, but they're not like being said that this is a kid leading an army.
No,
of children.
yeah, don't get me wrong.
That's where it comes down for me of just don't do it.
Yeah.
Stop it. Just stop it. And it's not just in this either.
No.
It was very much a thing of the time. And
yeah, that's why it's not a big deal for me, because it's just, well, you know, it happened.
Just wave my finger and go, stop it.
That's fine.
But yeah, I mean, this part of the story, it kind of like just throws up some concepts and ideas, and just carries on with the story as a whole. It doesn't really add much to it, but it does have this wonderful end page of, oh shit, that's a lot of people.
Barbarian boys.
Yeah, one guy's got his eyes ripped out, and another one's wearing what appears to be an orc skull.
Yeah.
You get right in the page. Well, it's just great, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, look at it all. Just full of evil.
The kids do surprisingly well, to be fair, against grown, drugged out men.
Yeah, they really shouldn't be doing this good.
No.
Like,
well, they've been trained. They've been heavily trained. So, you know, Spawn's been doing a good job making sure that they are ready. And they've had a few minor fights beforehand as well.
Oh, yeah. Do you like how Spawn starts knighting people?
Yeah, he's clearly not happy about doing it. He's like, for fuck's sake. Yeah, he's your fucking twigs and berries. Piss off.
Yeah. It's just the, your name? Philip, sir. In the name of the good and righteous Mary Maeve, I will, and the Parliament of the Wild, I dub thee Sir Philip. Now, fuck off.
He looks so happy.
He does. I've got my little twig and berries.
Yep.
Big demon dude just knighted me, and I'm now a sir.
It would, to be fair, to be knighted by a Spawn would be pretty sick.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you're a kid, you'd be like, fuck.
I mean, if a Spawn came to me now and said, can I knight you? I'd be like, go on, then.
Yeah, rock and roll.
Just do it. Do it now. Do it. But yeah, as I say, it all leads up to just basically they're now more fermented as an army, and the big army is coming. The big army of the pagan gods is on its way. We turn leads into the next one, which is mostly a fight with some absolutely gorgeous. So, you know, I was saying before about how this time was a lot of experimental stuff going on.
That's right, yeah.
So, page one, it's got the sepia tones all the way through, and it's got this lovely border in the middle of the page, which it focuses the eye, but all the kids are outside the border on the bottom of the page, and it's a really interesting look, even though it does look like they drew the picture and then stuck the cover of a Conan comic on the front.
Yeah, it's interesting as well that it's like they've turned down the opacity on the barbarians. Like they're almost translucent, while the kids up in the foreground are completely opaque. You can see them; they're like normal. I guess it's trying to give them the mythical look versus the realism look.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. Then the next page, you've got this gorgeous Celtic border around the top and the bottom, whilst Maeve is kicking the shit out of a guy who I'm going to name Long Drong.
Long Drong.
The next one, you've got a thin piece of art which is bordered by what is basically a book.
Yeah.
Looks, which is just like, what? And then you've got another book page. Then you've got a piece of really nice art, but the border is now like the Bayeux tapestry going across in the background. And it's like, why isn't the rest of the book, like the rest of the series, all like this?
Oddly enough, because that page where with Maeve in front of Spawn looks like a rock album cover again.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Coming soon from Iron Maiden. It's before we even discuss the actual art or the story or anything in this changing of pages, it's absolutely beautiful. And it just, you can look at this issue and not read anything, and you get everything that you need to get from it
Yeah, like you say, I think that's it helps for the fact that it's a big fight scene, but it flows well.
Yeah, with the fucking Redeemer picture, the borders down the side. Then the next one, you've got the old satanic god, and it's just a full picture with no borders. It's absolutely astonishingly beautiful, and I would love to have some of these pictures. Not the last page where Maeve is wearing nothing but a chainmail bikini and now has the body of a 10-year-old boy. Just stop it with weirdly cybernetic-looking legs. Never noticed that before. It's every page apart from that one is just beautiful. And I only realized when I was going through this how much the design aesthetic of this issue is embedded into my brain. Yeah, it's whenever I do something, it has a very similar. I'm not like saying that I steal this completely, but the idea of very much have these.
You're right. I never thought of that, but yeah, your art style has elements, I guess, plucked out from this.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, and I never realised that until I was going through it to get ready for this. It's really interesting to me. It's like, oh, shit. And it makes sense because I must have read this issue like 30, 40 times.
Oh, well, that's probably why it seeped into your brain so much. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not for the story. It's just for the way it's presented. It's absolutely beautiful. I love it. I just utterly adore it. It's so good, and it's interesting to see kind of like Photoshop really making itself known in comics at that point, isn't it?
Is that what was happening with the art style at the time?
Well, I mean, yeah, you had the Marvel buying Malibu for the coloring programs and the coloring techniques that they had, the digital coloring that Malibu had. Created. And then you've got this, and you can see it because you can see where textures have been overlaid, and you can see it where light's been played with and stuff like that. So yeah, you're starting to see Photoshop really making an effort here, and it's the one that I think is the best one to describe is the page where you've got Covenant like in shadow, and it's the night what stirs. The Hellspawn picks a scent on the breeze. He's back. And you can see that it's obviously been put through Photoshop and it's just been played with a little bit because you've got that texture coming through the black.
Oh, yeah. It's the brown smoky look that's covering the entire page, right? Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So, I mean, that's obviously a Photoshop thing, isn't it? That's not going to have been done physically by hand. That's digital manipulation.
Yeah, not with the amount of time. Because otherwise you'd be doing that with like a paintbrush or something, and that'd take ages to do. You'd be sponging it on everywhere.
Absolutely, and once again as a little throwback and little archive to what is, for all intents and purposes, a very simply drawn story. It just gives it such an amazing look. I fucking love it. There's no other way for me to put it.
Well, again, I would say it's not simply drawn. Simply drawn, because there's like cohesive backgrounds. There are things like, is it drawn without mistakes? No, there's certainly like proportion issues and here and there kind of floopiness, and things could be tightened up. But I think the work that's done on it is good. It's again the style that's working for it, and for me pulls it out of like any kind of nitpicky art woo that could happen. I can just look at it and go, no, it's got this style. It's not perfect, but there's always something going on screen. It's not boring to look at, or on page, I should say.
Yeah, a long way from it. Yeah, I mean the picture of the goat-headed guy. It's just You can see all like the brush strokes and everything on it. It's like, God, I just love it. Love it, Andy. I love it.
Yeah, and then the King's men are sent to investigate Maeve, and they're like, "Oh no, she's cool." They came, they kind of the way their reaction to her is kind of, I would imagine, a Joan of Arc-esque character. Like they don't believe her at first, and then they go, "Nope, you're going for God. No worries. Okay, we'll go back and tell the king you're cool. See you later."
Just yeah, you're all right. Go
Yeah,
on
all
then.
good. Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah.
I
And
really like
Cagliostro is
that.
obviously following. Do we find out why Cagliostro was against Maeve doing this to begin with? Because he hangs around and he's like, oh, I want to get rid of Maeve because she's doing something that she shouldn't be doing, but then she gets herself killed and he's like, oh, well, this was a boon for me in the end. I don't think we ever find out exactly why, right?
I think it's because the idea in Spawn as a whole is that it's a soul war. So the god, it doesn't matter if you're part of heaven or part of hell. There is no actual good here. They are in a war for souls in order to make troops for their armies. And so if Maeve is leading a lot of people under God's name, they die to go to heaven, and it's more troops for God, and the balance gets upset. So
Right.
That's kind of where Cog was coming from in the mainline story at that point.
Okay.
It's why Spawn ends up becoming the Heap and be getting a lot of the powers of nature and the balance, because he's there then to address the balance and keep both of them at the same level rather than letting one get ahead.
Right, okay.
So I think that's what they were trying to go for, but it's not explained.
No, it's just kind of left ambiguous. Was it explained at the time, like in the main comic, or did this take place years later?
It would have been maybe just a little bit earlier than this, a couple of years earlier.
Oh, okay. So they could have explained it if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. I wondered if it was a concept that just, hadn't came to fruition yet and they were told, don't explain it. We don't know quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
Or we don't want to hammer down the idea just yet. Okay, that's fair enough, though.
I think that's kind of where it's coming from, but you're right. It's not explained here, and as this is its own thing, it really should have been.
Yes, yeah, standalone books and whatnot.
So Maeve's death.
Maeve's death.
That's a bit of a shitter, isn't it?
Well, for her.
Yeah, the dude that's just like, haha, you didn't win anything.
Yeah, it's kind of nice that all of it was for nothing. Like even Spawn was getting hopeful at the end of the day. He was finding a bit of happiness and stuff, and then she dies. It's like, oh, well, there we go. But life's terrible again. That's, good to have normality back.
Yep, nothing changes. And Cog, who looks weirdly like Lemmy from Motorhead now.
Oh, he does. I'm not against it, though. Looks pretty good.
Oh, no, I'm all in for it. I'm in for
I wish they'd went more for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, he looks like if Transformers Animated Motormaster was a person.
Yeah, I could see it.
But... yeah, it's very, very cool.
I wish we had more fight scenes with the burning wicker men.
Yeah, that's such a great concept, isn't it?
Yeah, and they only have like 2-3 panels, but no one's actually fighting them.
Yeah, they're just kind of in the background.
Yeah, shame.
Yeah, it really is. So I'm just getting caught up in all the borders and everything again. It's so good.
I like how it ties back around to the... all of the King's Guard who came to help see Spawn with Maeve, and they assume he's the devil, so it kind of circles back around to the devil was going to take her away, but then left her. I think that's nice, because, Spawn doesn't look desperately kind. So you can see that's probably why he was getting pissed off at the end. It's like, I wasn't the fucking devil. I'm not Balbolgia. Don't lie.
But it's such a great way of tying it back to that earlier issue as well. Yeah. So this is where the story comes from, and this is where the story mutates. Yeah,
because based on those people's perception, that's what they would have seen.
Exactly. Yeah. So you realise that he's not getting angry because it's all a lie. He's getting angry because he's being blamed for basically leading a girl astray.
Yeah, and probably hearing or being reminded about like the hope that was almost within his grasp being taken away once again.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's layers that. It's strange, actually, because Al Simmons never had these kinds of layers to him.
He had Wanda, though.
Yeah, well, Wanda. Wanda. I did everything for her. Al Simmons is basically the front-running attack character for the majority of his first 10 years, anyhow, of existence. It's just a constant run forward and an attack. Covenant does have a little bit more of a layered, sympathetic approach, I think.
Yeah.
Because, Al Simmons, say whatever you want about Al Simmons and the way he's portrayed, he's not sympathetic.
No. I think that's deliberately done in a lot of ways.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah,
which is fine.
Yeah, he was given a shitty deal and the shitty end of a stick, but mate, you kind of fucking deserved it. You're not a good guy. You know?
Yeah.
Whilst Covenant, he's been misled into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was told that this was the right thing to do. It was not. He gets sent to hell. He gets reborn and brought back as this and basically tortured through a new existence. And none of it's really his fault. He's just doing what was expected of him at the time.
There's one point, which is why he was sent to hell, which is his fault, which we will obviously talk about when we get to it. That is on him, but for the most part, him going to the Crusades, how was he to know that that wasn't technically the right thing to do? He was told that there were these bad people who didn't believe in God, and he has to go and kill them, and he went, okay, cool, let's go and do it.
And then we get into the next series, which Dark Day is Coming, which I don't know about you, but this opens up and it's like, well, that's a Spawn comic.
Oh, you mean the big old pile of goo?
Yep.
Yeah, I like that.
That's
I was sad when I kind of got to this art style and went, oh, it's not as good. It's not as stylized. No.
Yeah, it's I think that's actually Greg Capullo doing that one.
It's not bad by any stretch. It's again better than the start of the series, but it's like, okay, all right. I do like the shot of the Out of the Stone, and it's kind of the upshot of this dude with like the biggest nose ever, bigger than Triple H's nose. And his eyeball looks like it's because of the perspective. His eyeball looks like it's almost the same size as the round part of his nose.
Oh, slap my ass and call me Susan.
What?
It's a guy called. It is. It's a guy called Chance Wolfe. Does the he's the inker. Hang on. Oh, Nat Jones is the penciler for this. Now, if you had told me that was Greg Capullo doing the art for this, I would have gone absolutely. I said you're absolutely correct.
I did not say that though. I was not correct.
No. So a little bit of backstory. Greg Capullo is basically the current guy who does Batman. He cut his teeth on Spawn. Spawn was the first proper job that he was given. And he was basically given it as being the successor to Tod Mcfarlane, which, I can absolutely see, especially in the stuff he did for Image. And you can still kind of see it in a lot of the stuff he does for DC with Batman, only his art style has very much, I don't want to say improved, but it's evolved a lot since then. So, but at this point, he was drawing in a Tod McFarlane style. He was everything about him was very Tod McFarlane. So it's a bit strange to find that this isn't a Greg Capullo because it looks so much like him, especially of this era. It's a little unnerving, to be honest. Well, shit on my head.
There you go.
The guy who did the last one, by the way, is a guy called Angel Medina, who is probably my favorite artist to have come out of the Image stable.
No idea why. Not after all the praise you gave him before. Doesn't make sense.
But even when he was doing more ground level, this is a superhero comic, his stuff is absolutely top notch. And he's a guy that I find it very weird that he's not a household name, not like in comic book people's minds.
Yeah.
That it doesn't seem to be somebody that everybody kind of goes, oh yeah, Angel Medina, he's fucking amazing.
Is it just his art style doesn't resonate with people?
I don't know. It's just you never hear anyone ever talk about him or congratulate the fact that he's one of the best artists, if not the best artist to come out of Image.
Oh wow!
Which, granted, Image also had Rob Liefeld, so leaving that there.
He was a guy. He did things.
He definitely drew pictures.
Yeah.
So hi. So I'm just a little bit thrown that's not who it is.
We actually don't get an answer for this man who explodes and finds the dead body until practically the last issue.
No, you don't.
Which is interesting.
Absolutely. This is a weird one for me. I like the concept of this story arc.
It's quite... I mean, it's the last half of the book. It's pretty,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big arc for the most part. I think generally I enjoyed it. I didn't like it as much as the Maeve stuff, but I thought this was still interesting when it started getting going eventually.
Yeah, it takes a long time to get rolling.
Yeah, we also have rebuffed Spawn as well, which visually is I don't love. I like his face design, that's fine. But like he's like 3 Banes in one man, and he's got no hair. Well, he's got like the comb over hair.
Yeah,
which is sad.
It's irritating because in the last one, he just looked pitch perfect.
Yeah.
In this one, he's just a monster.
Like
he's
that shot of him like holding the giant axe over his head, and his arms are so big.
Yeah.
And his lats are so big. They're so big. He looks silly.
I think that's exactly it, isn't it? He looks silly.
Yeah.
He doesn't look scary. He doesn't look like someone you'd either follow or fight. He looks like someone you just go, nah, fuck off.
Yeah,
and I hate the fact he's barefoot. The fact he's barefoot makes me feel really sick.
The way that he's got what? Sorry, barefoot.
Yeah, he's got bare feet.
Does he?
Yeah, it makes me feel a bit sick. Yeah,
you're not into feet, Gruff?
No, especially not rotten Bane zombie feet.
That's a bit judgy. Okay, I'll be like that.
As far as I'm concerned, legs should end without ceremony.
There should be stumps. No feet, just stumps.
Little flesh triangles that you wobble on.
I suppose Spawn doesn't need like shoes, right?
No,
they don't have like an Achilles heel per se. I see. I think the design works, or would work if he wasn't as big. If you reduced him down to the size he was in the previous comic, I think the overall design would be fine. But the fact, like, the shot of him when he's walking through the forest after everybody in the village is dead, and he's got the tree in front of him, and you see how big his bicep is. He's like, if the child who he's talking to like knelt down and you picked up that child, they'd probably be the same length if you held the boy sideways. It's ridiculously big. Look at the vein in the bicep as well.
Yeah, I know.
It's like a snake's going through his arm. Imagine you got a pin and you put a pin into that. You just explode.
Just drown everyone in blood.
Yeah, he's very much a balloon character. And it's like I say, it's a shame because I think the design isn't bad. I just think someone needed to go in and go, I get steroids are cool, bro. I understand. Steroids pretty poggers. Let's be a bit more restrictive. Let's do some urine tests on Spawn. Let's get him off the dope. Or the roid rage.
The thing that gets me is the fucking cheekbones on him.
He's happy.
That's not how a face works.
Look,
right?
Like, I think ladies love good cheekbones. I think Spawn here has some fucking good cheekbones.
Yeah, but that's not human cheekbones.
Right, it's like from hell.
It's like he's rammed like a cow's jaw in order to get the feeling that he wants.
Let me explain to you why I don't mind the cheekbones on him.
Okay.
Skeleton Warriors.
Yeah, but they're worse than Skeleton Warriors cheekbones.
Yeah, but it's like stupidly over-exaggerated, and I'm okay with that. It's just his inflated proportions. Also, like I said, the comb-over is a bit lame.
Yeah, I don't like the hair at all.
No, the big split down the center of his hair, and I just want to take like a razor blade to his hair, just be like, let's have a glow up. What the kids say.
Yeah, if he grew a goatee and shaved his head, he'd probably look 10 times better. Aye.
Oh my god! I forgot about the panel. It's like page 347 where Cagliostro is talking to Spawn's back. Look at are we sure Rob Liefeld didn't draw this? Look at that! Look at his arm.
Oh my god!
It's like he's the Elephant Man, but it's his arm.
Right, I'm going to take back everything I said about it. This surprising me that it's not Greg Capullo. I apologize for the insult that I have given Greg Capullo. I didn't mean for that to be the case.
His arm in this particular panel looks like, you know, the guys that like inject their biceps with oil. It looks like that. It's like, oh no.
Oh dear God.
Cagliostro doesn't look like Motorhead anymore either, which is a bummer.
No, why would you do that? Why would you stop Cagliostro from looking like Motorhead?
To be fair, they've drawn him more like his traditional look, which I get.
Yeah.
But he looked really cool as
But
that.
the only thing here is they've kind of slimmed him down again. And
Sometimes.
he looks more... Yeah, true, yeah. And he's got like those bigger eyes. And I kind of missed the shit bastard that he was in the opener, where he looked slightly jovial, but you could tell there was a streak of meanness to him.
Talking about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, he looks like Little John in that early sequence. In the early issues, he looked like Little John, but with a little hat on. Yeah.
Whilst in this, he just looks like
Cagliostro, I guess, right?
Yeah, he just looks like Cog, and it's a shame as well because the Cog went through a lot of character arcs and changes before we got to the beginning of Spawn.
He would do. He's been around for a few 100,000 years or something. So yeah, you'd expect a man to change visually a little bit. Yeah, not a lot, just a bit.
Yeah, I don't quite like the fact that they've taken him back to that.
No. Story-wise, it seems like Spawn kicked off and started its own village. As you said, Gruff, who knows how he got anybody to follow him looking the way he does.
Looking like a swollen nightmare.
Yeah, I don't know how that happens, but everybody loves him. He obviously protects him, because he would do. On a very happy, cool day, everybody makes him a big old axe, and he's like, this is a very cool axe. He goes to sleep, but he wakes up, and everybody's dead. It's like, oh. Whoops. Then some people come back, and they're like, it's your fault. He's a monster. I don't know why you'd start a fight with a guy who wiped out most of a village and is as big as this guy, but...
I don't know.
No, I'd be running. I think if I just saw that, I'd be like, nope, gone. Time to go. Run away.
Yeah.
Run away.
Leave this.
Yep.
Leave this.
Spawn's sad. Spawn leaves village. Boy's like, ooh, come back. And he's like, all right. But not now. Sad Spawn goes to Cagliostro. Cagliostro, as usual, not the nicest boy. Tells Spawn to fuck off. Spawn fuck. That's most of what Cagliostro does in this book. He tells Spawn to fuck off a lot.
Spawn tells Spawn to fuck off, and he goes off and speaks with like weird ancient spirit people.
Yeah. Spawn wanders off, tears out his own heart, which is kind of fun, and throws it in the water. He grows it back. What happens to that heart that he throws in the ocean? Does that play into like future Spawn comics?
No,
because I would have done a thing where that torn out heart thrown into that lake would have been like, maybe you have Al Simmons have the shit kicked out of him, like his own heart's taken away, or he's near death and he consumes the heart. It's like, where did this heart come from? And came from this. Chekhov's heart.
There's a character, I can't think what his name is. Oh, actually, he is called the Curse. He's the other Curse, not the Spawn Cursed.
Just another one.
Yeah, the Curse who's like a religious zealot. There's a lot of religious zealots in this.
What? In Spawn? That's not about religion at all.
And he chops Spawn up and puts him in jars. The storylines. And it'd be so much better if he just like found this heart and that's what started him off on this entire thing.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. I think that's how you do something like he threw his heart away. Does it just dissolve? I guess it does. Regardless, a vision of his wife comes and says, hey, come here. He comes here. That it was all the trick. The druids, the fiendish druids, got him into a big stone circle and take his necroplasm. I think this is the first time throughout the entire comic book that they ever talk about any of Spawn's power, because they have not utilized it at all. When Spawn's been fighting, he's just been chopping people up.
He hasn't used any of his powers as such,
which is weird in a way.
It is, yeah. It's like having somebody do a Spider-Man comic and Spider-Man doesn't stick to walls the entire time.
Or Wolverine never uses his claws. Or healing factor.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. All right, fair enough. So he gets all of his power drained, and the wizards are like, yay! After most of them are all butchered as the ceremony continues. And we just kind of push on with Spawn kind of being like, well, I'm alive, I'm bleeding like a human, I look like a fucking monster, but I guess I'm human, so it's all good. It's kind of feels kind of weird, but you know.
Yeah.
What did you think of it? Like, I don't mind the idea of the necroplasm being taken away by the druids. So the concept of the druids, as we find out a little bit later, that they follow the old gods. And I can't remember how soon it is, but he describes God and the devil as like little children who were fighting over toys. I think that's quite a good description of what the war between heaven and hell actually is. So even though the story might not be the best told in this arc, I think this does the best for adding to the mythology, which I didn't know about.
It does. It's, as I say, at its core concept, I think this is really, really good.
Yeah.
Everything that it does is superb as a concept.
Yeah.
The execution, however, drops the ball quite a lot.
It's pacing, I think, a lot of it, right?
It's a continuous problem, but every time it feels like it's kind of getting itself ramped up into a decent place, it just kind of drops the ball again, and it's a bit of a shame, because I remember this is about the time where I dropped off reading it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Issue 3 of this series, and it kind of just it feels like a very different story, a very different product to what we've had before. Even though we've had quite a lot of changes between issues 1 to issue, we'll say 10, there is something about that which kept dragging me in, and I could see how it's all connected to one world.
Yeah.
And as even though this last run does add to the story as a whole, it doesn't feel like it's the same thing. This feels more like a comic than the sort of more experimental stuff they were doing at the first half of the series.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. And
as a result, I kind of grew to, and especially when I came back to it, I just liked it less and less. I think it probably helps as well that Lord Covenant himself starts looking a lot like Eddie from the Iron Maiden albums.
God, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I can see that.
And you kind of lose who you've been following. It doesn't feel like the same guy anymore. It doesn't feel like the same like core character. There's a lot more of Al Simmons in him in this second half than there was in the first.
Do you mean visually? Or do you mean character-wise as well?
Character-wise, the way he talks, the way he responds to things. I mean, you look at the opening part of this where he rips his heart out and you've got the worms coming to get him. And he's got that entire, no, I will not let you take me back. Is that Lord Covenant? Is that Al Simmons? The way he starts being drawn in the second part, even though he's got his hair back, which, like, all right, fair dues. I don't know if you noticed, but there's certain panels where he's got all of his hair, and there's certain panels where he's still got the bald bit at the top.
I didn't know. I could believe it, though.
And then they've changed the way his eyes work, and I didn't like his eyes how they were in the first issue of this arc. But the fact that they're just giving him the Spawn mask eyes going forward, it means it just looks stupid. Yeah, it's a real shame just how quickly this starts looking very generic. Is probably the better term I'd use. There's little glimpses and little hints of something of where it's come from, but it really does start looking super like things you've seen 100 times, 100 different places.
It's kind of it's a what if Spawn story more so than its own distinct character and setting and all that jazz. Yeah, that
is a very good way of putting it. Yeah, this might as well be a what if.
Yeah,
because it doesn't feel like the same character that we followed in the first half of this run. But I don't know. It's one of those things where it's a real shame because I love where it's been, and as a core concept, there's stuff in here I absolutely adore. I mean, the stuff about him like being blamed for the massacre of the village and being crucified and whatnot. Yeah, that is really good stuff. But then it's just, yeah, all right.
I think it's also lost something for the fact that, as I mentioned earlier on at the start of the recording, there's the aspect of like all of these stories, or a lot of the stories, were being told as tales. Someone was a narrator telling somebody else. It wasn't from Covenant's perspective for the most part. Obviously, the Maeve story kind of was, but he wasn't really telling it. It was just presented as a story that somebody else is telling you. Here, it's just a story. It's just a story, and there is narration, but it doesn't feel as though it's someone telling you about these events. It's just like, this is, like you said, kind of a standard way that you do narration and comic storytelling at the time, or even now.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it loses a lot of that mythical quality because of it. It becomes a comic. It stops being something very different, very experimental, something very different, where it's a joy to just look at. Yeah, which is what we've had. Even the first few issues with its inconsistent art, at least it's still something that's interesting and visually arresting to look at. Once you get into these bits, it looks exactly like every other comic that was out at the time. It's granted not all of them had a big skull face person, but
I will say I still prefer this to the first few issues, because it even though it's more generic-y, it felt easier to read and more interesting to read, and it was more coherent to read visually. I don't think you're wrong about the kind of nature of it either in a lot of ways. I don't dislike it either. It's just, it is a downgrade. It's like going from a really high-end burger place to then going to McDonald's. You don't hate the McDonald's. You're just like, I would have liked the other burger more.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it I don't know, it's just a really weird one. Although it is quite fun that you get the bit quite far on to the story where he just stands up and he's like, never turn you back on Hellspawn.
Yes.
And he's got the full cloak and everything. It's like,
nice visual too. I like the fact that as we go on, he has a fight with some dudes. He's had his necroplasm taken away, so people kick the shit out of him, even though he's massive. But okay, sure, whatever. We find out that, because I didn't know this, that worms and other creatures, if you suck them off or squish them, they can re-energize because they're evil creatures, which is a little bit judgy, but okay, fair enough.
Rats, bats, worms, crows. Yeah, they can.
Why crows? Crows are cool.
Because Tod Mcfarlane is, for all of Tod McFarlane's good things and some of his weird things, he's not a very imaginative man.
And poor rats, right? Rats are quite nice.
And also,
it can be nice. They can be shit as well, to be fair.
Never forget, Tod McFarlane spent $3 million on some balls.
Oh my god. Beaten up Spawn goes back to the village, and like you said, he gets crucified. It is quite amusing to see how big the crucifix is. And if you look at like how his arms are tied by billions of acres of rope, his arms looks really silly just because of how big he is. People are still getting killed in the forest. The druid takes the necroplasm and finds what's the dude he calls, because he's blue at first, but then he starts looking human as the show goes on.
Makus. He's got.
Yeah, but what is he? What they call you, Isian?
Yeah, I think he's meant to be like an elfy type character, like a Fae of the Woods type.
Yeah, but they give that up very quickly. They color him with blue skin, but then he just looks like a dude in a few more issues' time. I don't know why they bothered.
Me neither. It's like they had an idea, but then they just decided, no, it's just covered in woad for that one sequence.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't have had him as like a dryad, but not a dryad, but a nymph or something like that. Like you say, of just full on spirit of the forest.
Yeah, just full blown fae. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, it's that time period. You could even say it's like one of the Irish fae folk or something like that. And he just happens to be over in England for a jaunt or something. I don't know. But yeah. He's just a dude, I guess. All right. Spawn.
Just a dude.
What happens next? Oh, there are more people getting smushed in the forest. So the little boy lets Spawn go. He's like, all right, cool. See you later, chap. I'll be on my bike. He goes see Cagliostro. Cagliostro's like, you don't have necroplasm. You're not at a spawn. Go fuck yourself. And Spawn is then sad. And then we basically have the introduction of Vikings, or the threat of Vikings looming. Spawn finds Tom the Cripple, I guess, whatever his name is. Apparently there's a village or town nearby that's been taken over by some ruffians, and his wife's getting railed in the good old whorehouse. You know how it goes. So he wants to go save her without his Spawn powers. He manages to do so, gets imprisoned, gets put in the leper prison, and then he finds out the village eats the people that they capture. At the same time, the necroplasm druids not really... They just sat in a tree house.
Yeah.
What are they doing? They're meant to be getting rid of the necroplasm, but they spend like 5 issues in the tree house not doing anything.
I think they're just having a good old go at each other, you know. Just
oh wow, well, you know.
I think that's all it is. I think they're just like, oh, should we get rid of this necroplasm? Well, we could, but you know.
Oh, I dropped it on the floor and my pants are falling down. Oh no.
oh dear, whoopsie daisy, whoopsie daisy.
Yeah, well, you know, when you're stuck in a forest, I guess it happens.
It's I don't know. It's yeah. Not only does the blue guy get coloured like normal skin colour, he suddenly ages about 20 years as well.
He does. Really well, weird. Maybe the bearded man's really old, like really boring. So he bored him to age.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't even know if it's meant to be the same character.
I guess it is. I think it is.
No,
I think
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, they mention Marcus, don't they? Again.
Yeah. So they actually call him by name. So yeah, it is the same character.
Yeah. So in the dungeon, Spawn is able to find a rat. The new Lord of the Land is like, we're going to eat Hellspawn. And then, like he said, he gets the never turn your back on a Hellspawn, where he just literally looks like Al Simmons at that point because he has the full-on Spawn cape. Fine, I like the Spawn cape. It's weird he didn't have it until these kind of issues, but
yeah,
you know, okay. I would have liked that to. I would have liked that to have been a unique Al Simmons thing with the cape, but okay. Sorry, you were going to say.
So I was just looking it up there. The Iceni, which Makus is part of, is a Brittonic tribe of Eastern Britain during the Iron Age and early Roman era.
So why is he blue?
I don't know. The territory included present-day Norfolk and parts of Suffolk and Cambridgeshire. So yeah, he's not a fae at all. He's an actual historic tribe.
So why is he blue?
I think the colorist must have just misunderstood what they were trying to do.
Yeah, because I saw that word and assumed it was something fake because I'd never heard of it. It's quite nice that it's not and it's a real thing. That's cool. Yeah. I'm down with that. Don't color him blue. It's fucking confusing.
It is. It really is.
I guess that's why he went back to being a normal colored dude. Maybe he was very, very cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why he was blue.
I wonder if he was meant to be covered in woad. I don't know.
I like the idea that you meant wood, but you just said it wrong.
No, he's just covered in woad.
Woad. I love woad. The village where Spawn was at gets attacked by the Vikings, and they get killed and all that jazz. The little boy's like, oh, please, sir, could I come with you so I could get revenge in the future? Like, yep, all right. Come on, kid. You can come with us back to Sweden or wherever, Denmark or Viking land, and we can go kill people. Spawn sets the town on fire, so hopefully there were no one innocent in there, like the rest of the girls getting railed in the bar. Never mind. I guess they deserved it. Spawn gets his new look. I do like his new look, finally. You know, with the helmet. He looks distinct. He's actually... He's shrunk. You know, the reveal shot where it shows you with the helmet, and he doesn't have the arms that are 5 people thick.
Yep. He doesn't have fingernails bigger than a boy's head. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I like this look. This might be my favorite look for him.
Mm-hmm. That's really good.
I like the medieval helmet more than I did in the Maeve story, because the Maeve story is that strange Spawn design, which was interesting, but this looks more like a medieval setting Spawn. But he's got the right proportions. He doesn't have the top on. He's got the loincloth. The cape's gone as well. It's just kind of a sash now around him. I thought at this point Spawn looked his best.
Okay. I much prefer the Maeve storyline version.
That's fair, yeah.
I mean, this is pretty much what he looks like from this point on.
Yes.
Even now, that's pretty much what he looks like now.
I mean, the only thing maybe I change is I get rid of the gauntlet, because that's that just looks like standard Spawn. So I'd change that to be something else. Maybe you give him a big shoulder pad on that arm instead, or something akin. Just to, again, make it a bit different as much as you can. Spawn then goes back and sees that Crippled John is poking his wife, and he's like, "Good for you, Crippled Tom." And the guy who and the druid and the man who wasn't an elf. Well, unfortunately, the man who wasn't an elf got skinned and hung up around the fireplace. Bit of a surprise.
Yeah, just cause.
I mean, I guess again we find out what does it later. But I don't quite know why. Apart from just for the lols, I guess, is the idea.
Mm-hmm.
We get a good shot of like his very furry pubic hair regions, but not his peen. It's covered by his his severed foot, so that's okay.
I quite like the foot that's just hanging from the tree on the bone.
That, you know.
I don't know why, but that just makes me laugh.
It's, you know why? Because it means that his undead body is always going to be smelling his smelly feet. That's why the eyeball's falling out. It wasn't originally, but the stink from his foot is just like slowly whittling the eye out.
Yeah.
Spawn goes to sleep in the forest, as one does, and has a dream about the new hell spawn. I don't really know why this storyline crept in, but I guess we get more lore of how the spawn work, or spawns. This time Malbulge has chosen someone who's actually evil, which is kind of important to do, Malbulge. You seem to be pretty shit at choosing Hellspawn, clearly, because none of them has succeeded, and two of them have been eventually good, and Cagliostro broke away. You're shit at choosing Hellspawn. This is the only guy so far we've seen in stories that seems like he would be a good idea. One of my favorite panels from this new Spawn's backstory is he just ran, like him and his brother go to a pond. He just drowns his brother for no reason.
Yep, just, there you go.
I love you, brother. I could drown you now.
I like to think that that's the two hobbits from Lord of the Rings when they found the one
Smeagol and Deagle. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, so that's what this Hellspawn is. So for all of his talk of being evil, he ends up only being like 2 foot tall.
That would be quite fun. I do like him in the weird embryo sack. Though, is it real, or is this like a dreamscape still? Because it feels like it. Because he destroys it later on in the story, so I'm not quite sure. Like, is it meant to be like?
I think it's meant to be a dream.
So it's like a dreamscape version.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think that he wakes up and he knows that this is happening, but the actual conversation takes place inside his head.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a connection to hell.
The reason I ask is because when he says "so be it," he squishes the dude's head. This is the last panel, or the last page, and then he walks away. He doesn't wake up in the forest.
True, actually, yeah.
So is it real? Like, does squishing the embryo sac bring him into the real world where he can squish him? I don't know.
Actually. Maybe it is, because he does kind of wake up at the beginning, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But it seems really weird to just have a spawn growing out of a tree.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah,
because at first you assume like he goes to sleep, and then, like you say, it's not hell, it's not heaven, it's the dreamscape or something. It's the waiting area for where Hellspawn, I guess, gestate.
Mm-hmm.
But then he just walks away at the end. So instead of waking up with a big smile on his face, it's strange.
That's a really weird one. Actually, I hadn't really considered it in that tone.
Yeah, it's an odd one. Again, this story just feels like it's. I don't know if this part of the story is here just for Spawn lore explanation. I appreciate it on that part, but it's a long story that is one issue. Spawn sees a future Spawn, kills her, and says, "No, I'm Spawn," and then walks away.
Yeah. It should have been intermittent with another issue, I think.
Yes, like the coming of the next Spawn, like it's a prophecy, like Barry Covenant's about to die, and this is the next guy that's going to stand up. Or maybe you have them fight in the dreamscape to see who's able to take possession of going back to the physical realm. Like he's fighting in line or something. Right.
Wouldn't it make more sense if, when he's defeated in the last story arc, and he's unconscious and he does have his necroplasm, he then sees that, has that story, and then wakes up on the crucifix?
Yeah, that could work, yeah.
that would make a ton more sense.
Yeah, because he's lost his necroplasm. This is why the other spawn is being born at the time. Mm-hmm. Then he stops that spawn, and thus he's able to wake up again, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I like, and it requires very little to do it in terms of, like, editing. It's just shuffle around the story.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would make a ton more sense.
Yeah. Oh, well.
That's not the way.
No.
Yeah, so next story is basically a lot of Spawn wandering around, because that's what he does for the next little while.
Yeah. It kind of connects back up.
Yeah.
It's the build to the end, but it is a slow build to the end.
Now, there's a character that turns up in this arc, and I want to know if you thought the same thing I did.
Maeve 2.0.
Well, actually, yes, there is that. Maeve 2. But no, Dumas.
Oh, okay.
When he turned up, all I could think was, I am Azrael, the avenging angel, heir to the sword of Saint Dumas.
See, I knew I recognized the name, but my name, the name that kept popping up in my head is Duma.
Duma.
From the Legacy of Kain games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it made me chuckle, to be honest.
Is Duma a thing that I should know from, like, mythology or something?
I think it's just one of those names, isn't it? It's one of those names.
I mean specifically this guy who's meant to be a giant who knows alchemy and staves and stuff like that. It feels like this is like a mythological thing that I should have heard of from something. Or is it just created for this?
I think it's just created for that. I mean, the only Dumas I know of is Alexandre Dumas, who was a playwright and a songwriter and a novelist. A French guy. I don't know of any other Dumas.
Oh, all right.
So he wrote the Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh,
and it's literally the only one that I know of.
Oh, okay.
If I could probably have a look. Let's have a quick look. See, let's pull up Dumas medieval.
Oh, you mean the giant from the Spawn comic? Nope, I didn't mean him.
Oh, hang on. What's this? So, all I can find really is stuff about Azrael, the avenging angel, heir to the sword of
Dumas,
and the fact that Alexander Dumas wrote "The Man in the Iron Mask." So, yeah, there we go. That's,
all right. So, no, he's not meant to be anybody. Fair enough. Okay.
No.
Do you think it's weird that he basically serves as Cagliostro for this Spawn?
Yeah.
The teacher character?
It is weird, isn't it? It's like they realised that they backed themselves into a corner and Cog was going to be an asshole no matter what they did.
Yeah.
So they had to create a different character to be the Cog that he needed to have. It's odd.
Because of this, I guess it makes sense because he needs a teacher because he's now doesn't run on any necroplasm, which, again, I'm fine with. I think that's an interesting take. So what do we do with him? We give him alchemy, so we give him explosives. Okay, yeah.
It's an odd way of doing it, but yeah, okay,
yes.
Yeah.
It's not the smoothest way of doing it because he just does wander around the forest and he does try to blow him up for no reason and goes, I will teach you how I make explosives.
Yeah.
And Spawn's like, okay, fair enough.
I always thought it'd be an interesting take if at the end of this, Cagliostro was dead for whatever reason, and Covenant took his name, and then you find out that the Covenant in the Cagliostro in modern day is actually the Covenant from the Dark Ages.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah.
And I'm surprised in a lot of ways that they didn't go down that route, because that would have been such a cool thing to do.
Maybe it's they didn't want to change. They didn't want the law of this to affect Spawn.
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly it. Yeah, this is its own.
Probably Tod said no.
Yeah, that's even if they have to have the thought. But it's just such an obvious story point for me for them to have taken. Just because the Cog here is so different to the Cog that we see later on, and with this one sort of having most of his necroplasm gone and only having that one little piece left in him. Yeah, it would make sense because that's what Cog's got. So it's just a strange one. I'm surprised it didn't go down that route.
I tell you what I do like about Maeve 2.0, because Maeve 2.0 is a princess, a lady who lives in the castle, and she wants to be a warrior, so she goes out to tussle with the brothers, and they're like, oh, you can't fight because you're a woman, and then she goes in quite hard on them, and he's like, oh, if you keep fuck around, find out. And she's like, no, you can't beat me, and then he beats the shit out of her. And the reason why I like that is because it's not the generic she's just the best. It's she gets put down in her place. And I think that's quite good, because that's not something that happens a lot in like this kind of media. Usually when a lady gets told, no, you can't beat us because we're just going to go light on you, a lot of the time they just go, no, she's just better. So I like the fact, because it's a nice humbling thing. It shows that she's got places to go and to expand rather than just be the bestest already. So I like that.
Yeah, that's
and she's not like an incapable fighter, as we see later on, but it's
no.
I think she needed more as well, because she just kind of she doesn't do anything as we go on. She just exists.
There's room for growth, but there's no point where you get to experience that journey.
She has no story. It's almost like the Dark Ages was meant to continue, and they were just told to end, stop it.
Yeah. I think it was, if memory serves right, it was cancelled.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Rather than it coming to a proper end. So
yeah.
I think they had to wrap it up in the last 3 issues or something like that. 2 issues.
It does rush a little bit, I will say.
It does. And I think there's stuff in here which I quite like for the last run. I think whilst the art itself hasn't changed very much, it's got all the problems I dislike from going forward earlier on in this part of it, but it doesn't seem as jarring. I think it's probably because you got used to it now, so it kind of continues. But some of the facial expressions are fucking awful.
What do you mean? I tell you, one of the best panels is the druid who has decided to skin and remove all the organs from his Marcus friend, and you just have the the little skeleton with the eyes and the hair just like looking like, I don't want to be here anymore. This is like me, like when I've stayed round at yours and you've leant over and you've said, hey Andy, do you want to watch the Fantastic Four movie and the old Captain America movie? And I'm just there like, sure, Gruff, let's watch this. Then I had a great time, to be fair, but
yeah, I was going to say, don't you lie to me, sir. You know that you enjoyed every second of those films.
That facial expression was my reaction to hearing you say it. It was like, okay, here we go.
That's why you should trust me, Andy.
I
will never lead you wrong. It'll always be a good time, no matter what.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Maeve 2.0 gets some really bad facial expressions.
She does. She gets kind of generic facial expressions, I guess.
Well, there's certain points where she's got a shovel-like flat face. And I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to do the little dainty nose and everything, trying to give her very soft expressions. But it means that she's got a very inhumane look to her.
That's why she hangs around with Spawn. She sees a monster reflected in her face.
So the sequences where it looks like the mouth isn't really connected to the rest of her face, and her nose becomes incredibly flat, and it's weird. I mean, Dumas gets whilst the basic shape of his weird head doesn't change, it kind of morphs a lot between panels, and
he's got a testicle chin.
He really does. It's massive. That is not the chin of a medieval Britishman. That is the chin of a 1970s American. It's weird. I don't understand. Someone told me that he was like Dr. Robotnik's great granddad. I'd believe them.
He's not fat enough.
Well, that's
He needs to pork up.
Yeah, doesn't have all the fast food that you get later on.
Yeah, I always get annoyed when people say Eggman. I'm like, no.
My son told me off for calling him Dr. Robotnik the other day.
No, your son's wrong. Not Eggman. Eggman's a stupid name for somebody. Robotnik? He makes robots.
Yeah.
He's a badnik. He's Dr. Robotnik who makes badniks. Doesn't make sense for them to be called Badniks otherwise. What's Badnik? Robotnik. It's like his last name. Nick.
That's why there's a game called Egg Robos instead of Badniks.
Oh, this is such a stupid name as well. Egg Robo. They're not egg-shaped.
Yeah. Hate him. Hate it.
Anyway, back to the story. Marcus, skinned, gets burnt, and the necroplasm that we've been doing nothing with gets stolen by religious people. And it looks like the druid dies, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
The girl, Maeve 2.0, saves the druid. Somehow. Magic.
Yeah, it just happens.
Yeah.
It's not exactly off screen, but fuck knows what actually happens there.
No, like he tells her to like scoop some of his own like blood goo and dirt together, and he eats it, and he goes into like a healing coma for like 6 weeks or something. Then wakes up in winter, and he's like, "I'm okay now." It's like, okay,
that's all right.
Druid magic. I don't know. And as he said, Dumas is teaching Spawn about writing and picture books and crossword puzzles and about alchemy because he's dying, so he wants to tell people about it. The boy was taken in by the Vikings. Now goes off and starts doing Viking things to get them to trust him. It builds to something, kind of, so don't worry about it. And then, kind of. It sort of does. Spawn entombs the dead Dumas and goes off for adventures, and then we finally kind of find out what the necroplasm is going to be used for. It's going to be used to heal a dying, I was going to say wizard, but it's like a crusader who's old. They're going to inject him with the necroplasm because what could possibly go wrong with using Satan's piss for something?
Oh, what possibly, How could any of this go wrong?
Especially for religious people to do this, Yeah. They know the necroplasm's bad, I assume.
They're so good to use it, why not? Just get it down, you lad. It's good for you.
It's like Mountain Dew. Probably actually better than Mountain Dew, to be honest. Healthier. Maeve 2.0 and the Druid finally catch up with Spawn. Maeve and Spawn have a big duel together. I'm not sure why. Does this mean because she fights Spawn to a standstill that the brother is better than Spawn?
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to check. The brother that beat the shit out of her is a far better swordsman than she is.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
It's a weird thought, isn't it?
Yeah, because they just go back to generic like writing of like she's just as good as Spawn. It's like, okay, then why did she get beat so thoroughly by her brother? Okay, whatever.
Because her brother is actually a god? I don't have no idea.
To be fair, if they made him overkill of the series, that'd be quite fun.
Mm-hmm.
They just make it like wooden overkill, so he's a cyborg, but with wooden parts. Like a German clock in his chest. That'd be fun. Wooden clock. So, the boys are together. They go, hey, we should probably save that village that I used to lead. They kill the Vikings, bada bing, bada boom, because they get Crippled Tom and some other people to help them. It was Crippled Tom that they got to help them, right?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
If it wasn't, it was someone who looked a lot like him.
It was his brother, Crippled Tim. The side of his face was melted.
Croppled Tim, yeah.
Croppled Tim. Then we jump back to injecting the priest full of the necroplasm. He turns into a big wobbly mess. For some reason, again, who could have seen? Not the Violator, which I thought was going to be this series' Violator. We actually get Violator later. Violator later? Okay. So
that's the joke from the actual thing, isn't it? It's I'm the Violator. If I don't kill you now, I'll do it later.
Is that a thing? Oh my god.
That's a thing.
That's a Tod Mcfarlane line.
That's a Tod Mcfarlane line.
Oh no. Cagliostro comes back to run the story up, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, got to get the cast all together now.
Yep. The Druid and Spawn say, hey, Maeve, I know we've just kind of introduced you, but bye. We'll see you later, as they go off to the city to fight this demon. I do like the shot of the charnel pit that the city's turned into, and the little dead corpse, like with the rat inside of its mouth, just having a good old nosh on its tongue. That's kind of a nice image.
I will say, this is where I think this art gets, like, the best it gets.
Yeah, the grotesque, like the face nailed to a wall kind of thing.
Yeah, it's everything from Spawn and Cog riding the horses onwards. Even though nothing really changes, I think it's because the way where the story goes, it plays into the strengths of the art a lot more.
I guess this guy was used to doing more this kind of Spawn stuff than just your standard Spawn, or like non-crazy, over-the-top blood and guts gore stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. They go and confront the Beast, and we just have a big old tussle with him. And that's...
Paradise!
Yeah, he thinks he's... Well, is the demon thinking it's doing good? Because then at some point during its speech, it's just like, no, I'm not good, I'm evil.
Yeah, well, it says, if I don't... Well, he kills the guy, doesn't he? If I don't kill you now, you'll go off to create a great evil where you go around kidnapping kids and defiling them. It's like...
that's why he says when he just becomes the demon for the first time, while he's fighting Spawn, he pretends like, oh no, what have I done? Oh... And then he kind of goes, haha, no, I got you, Spawn. I'm actually evil all along.
So I think he was.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, you mean the priest, the Crusader dude was evil all along?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Because why else would you agree to it?
I don't know. I don't know. So, people do silly things when they're going to die. They beat the big bad boy by extracting, like Cagliostro forms a little bone prison to suck out his goo. They don't, unfortunately, suck out all of the goo. Some drips go into the piles and piles of bodies, and it's enough to reanimate all of the bodies into a big blob monster. Spawn gets eaten, and then he chops his way outside. The druid also dies, so never mind.
Yep. So that wasn't a problem.
No, he gets re-imbued with some aspect because he gets like a worm or a rat or something. He gets his spawn powers back for a little bit, and he takes the necroplasm cage away. Don't worry, he'll do something really important with that necroplasm cage. He buries it. Does anything happen with that necroplasm cage?
Not to my knowledge.
Again, two things now that could have been used in future comics that they don't do anything with. Spawn, Cagliostro goes, well, I'm done with this fucking series. Bye, Spawn. And he's out. Spawn goes to see Maeve 2.0. Everybody's dead, and she's like, I didn't die, and I thought that's suspicious. It's clearly the child, because it obviously was the child, because they've been hinting at the child being evil for 5 issues or something at this point. I don't think they actually explained why Maeve survived, did they?
No, it's not really explained other than, there you go.
She just is, yeah. You're the new
Maeve.
love interest, but we're not going to really do anything with that. We find out that the child is not real or was possessed by one of the... What are these things called? They have a silly name.
Yeah, the Philbiacs.
Yeah, I wasn't going to guess that. The Philbiacs. This is Vandal, who's very small. He's very cute. But the cool thing is he brought his brothers and the Violators there. I didn't know there were... I mean, I assumed there were more than one Violator, but I didn't know what these things... I didn't know there was like a full group and they were like brothers, so it was kind of nice to see them.
Violator, Vaporizer, Vindicator...
Philbiacs.
Vandalizer...
Lots of V's.
Yeah, they're all V's.
Oh, is that why there's 5 of them? Because all of their names start with a V as well?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Oh, wow. Tod Mcfarlane writing.
Violator, Vindicator, Vandalizer, Vaporizer, Facilitator.
Ah.
There you go.
I think, like, design-wise, they could have done with a bit more differences between them. But, yeah. Okay. I'm sure that's a cool thing for Spawn fans to see. I was like, oh, that's neat. I know him. He's got a silly mouth. Covenant doesn't have any goo power, so he has to fight the boys and obviously dies horribly. And he dies, but he isn't taken by them. He's able to go on to heaven?
Not according to
the law that they set out in the comic. Yeah, I know. It's kind of confused by that. But he goes to his wife somewhere, and he seems to have a happy end. I guess the Filbiak brothers, or whatever they're called, didn't want Maeve, and they left her, and she gets the necroplasm cage.
Yeah, weird, isn't it? That they just go, all right, bye.
Yeah, especially, because the Filbiak brothers, I guess, were the guys in the forest killing everybody.
I think that's kind of what they were trying to do, yes, but it's never explained. Nothing's ever done to cement that together.
Why would they do that?
Because he had the necroplasm and...
No. Why would the Filbiak brothers just hang around in a forest and just occasionally kill people that went into the forest? It doesn't seem like
no idea.
It doesn't, like, I get that their job is to hunt down Hellspawn.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a pretty shit way to hunt the Hellspawn, to stay in one location.
Maybe they were just on vacation and they were having a little holiday, and their holiday involves mass slaughter.
They love to go to England and hanging out in a forest.
It's one of those things where the end of this, it feels like a real damp fart.
Yeah.
And it's an annoyance, because even though, as we've spoken about during this, the first run of it does have its issues. It just ends up being one of the most by the numbers comics I've ever seen. It's a massive shame, because I do love everything. Even the bad stuff, I think I really like, and it's a weird moment where every time I come back to the last run, I always feel the same apathy to it that I did when I first came to it, which granted was a long, long time after it had been published. And it is down to that. It doesn't feel like it's doing anything really spectacular. It feels like it's a generic comic story of, bad guy, the hero has been, I don't know, he's been Peter Parkered, so he's not got his full powers anymore. Yeah. And here's a succession of ever larger bad guys to beat. You did it.
I think it was obvious that Covenant had to die. That was always going to be the conclusion of the story, because there can only be one Hellspawn. Yeah. Fine. I think having him killed by... I don't think you need to send all 5 of them after him, because, like, Al Simmons, you sent one, and he had necroplasm. This guy doesn't even have necroplasm on him, so you could probably just send one of these guys, and maybe you could have had a hunting story where they are hunting, or one of them is hunting him, and he's trying to either muster an army together or something like that. You could do something a bit more like that rather than the generic kind of fight at the end.
But it's like he fights the possessed priest, then he goes at the giant flesh monster, then it's the Filbiaks, and you just... Aye.
And like you say, it's just standard Spawn. He's fighting demons at that point. And you could have... maybe one demon, or maybe you have it so you make it more medieval and it's not a demon. It's a lizard that's sucked off the necroplasm and turned into a dragon, and that's where the dragon mythologies come from and stuff like that. Or a griffin or a bird or something,
De Blanc was meant to be the next Spawn. That De Blanc would arrive on the planet as the Spawn to replace him.
No, that could have worked, yeah. Nope.
And it's weird to me that they never went back and got De Blanc out of hell, because obviously, he's dead. And he's a bastard. And, you would have thought, well, why isn't he the big bad of the final story? Bring everything full circle. And it really does feel like the second half of that run is a completely different comic to the first half.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Comics change and they evolve. They mutate over time. Absolutely, it's part of the nature of it. But to be so far removed from the history of the series without any reboots or anything, it's just a continuous run, and to not be connected to that first part, it's just really weird to me. And as I say, it's one of the biggest problems the biggest problem I've got with it is it doesn't feel like the same comic. And I can definitely see why it's cancelled. Absolutely. Yeah. Because it was, by the end of it was nothing.
Do you think the reason it changed back to being generic kind of Spawn was because the previous things weren't doing well and they were, okay, let's just make it Spawn and see if we can get the numbers back up. Numbers aren't going up, cancel it.
Possibly. Very possible. It's well within the realms of imagination that would be the case.
Yeah.
It is a shame. It is a shame because, as I say, at that point there was so much experimental stuff being done, and for it to become just a comic is a shame in my eyes. I think if they'd changed the experiment, changed how they did things so it was being done in a different way, I probably would feel a bit more better feelings towards it. But because it does become, here is your generic comic and here is one thing happening after another, it loses me quite quickly.
I can see that. Yeah. I was still entertained by the last run, but I didn't think it was nearly as good. Like, I don't think it's inherently bad. I think the worst thing about it is it just gets generic, or it just gets standard. Yeah,
that's probably a good way of putting it. It's very standard.
Yeah.
And as I say, it just feels like a massive shame to me, that's all. It's having something that was brave enough to really try to do something different, to very much carve out its own identity, and then to just jettison that seems a massive shame to me.
So I guess we could probably round this off. What would you recommend people check out this? Like, if you want your first dip into Spawn, I mean, clearly you must do because you recommended it to me, unless you were being a dick weasel.
Well, I thought that there was enough here for us to have a quite good conversation about it. And considering the fact that this is a 3-hour recording, I think that, yes, we have had a good conversation.
I would agree.
So I would, yes, with the caveat that knowing where it goes at the end. I think that first half is a really fascinating experience. And whilst some of it works, some of it doesn't. And that's very much what happens when you're being experimental. Not everything's going to work, and sometimes you have to rework it and come at it from a different angle. But the fact that they've tried to do something different, I think is very, very brave, and it should be commended. And yes, absolutely read it, because that sequence, those issues are really, really good. Even when they're not good, they're still good, if that makes sense, because of what you can kind of absorb from it.
From my perspective, I think there's a big hump to get over. At least there was a big hump for me to get over. But once I started getting into it, I was interested. And then it became a little bit more like, I'm reading it. I'm not hating it. I'm not loving it. But I'm glad I watched it, is how I'd probably phrase it. I think it was an interesting read, and I wouldn't mind trying more Spawn in the future. Obviously it's hard to know what, because I think the problem with some comics is it's like X-Men. X-Men's like, whenever someone says, hey, you should read X-Men, you're like, yeah, but whenever I hear that, they say, oh, but you need to read this, but before this, you need to read that, but before reading that, you need to have read this, but before reading that, and you just kind of going all the way back to the Chris Claremont run back in the day.
Yeah.
It's like, so you tell me to read from Chris Claremont's run on X-Men till 2003.
Yeah, that's not doable.
No,
it's not doable.
And it's obviously not quite as bad with Spawn, but it feels a little bit like that as well, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if for example, you wanted to do more Spawn, I would be more than happy to come back on with the Sam and Twitch.
Oh.
Do Sam and Twitch with you.
We could do that.
More than happy. The two Ashley Wood one-shots would actually be really good as well. Blood and Shadows and... What's the other one called? I can't remember now. I'd have to look it up. But Blood and Shadows is real fucking grim. It's very much 7 came out, and McFarlane and Ashley Wood went, what if that but Spawn?
Well, it's a good movie.
Yeah, not as much the actual story of the film, but the feel of it.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
It's Blood and Shadows is very, very good. And then, obviously, if you want to go through and do some Al Simmons Spawn, I'll happily work out some good story arcs.
That sounds good.
A good one to do at some point would be Spawn Batman, Batman Spawn.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that you recommended to me.
Yeah, not because it's good.
Okay.
No, it's magical. Don't get me wrong. The Frank Miller written, Tod Mcfarlane drawn Spawn Batman it's a wonder to behold. It is like nothing you've ever seen.
Okay.
Batman calls Spawn a punk 47 times in 50 pages. It is beautiful. Batman Spawn is weird. I wouldn't say it was good. It's weird. And the brand new Batman Spawn that just came out is, yeah. It's a thing.
Okay.
But I haven't got a real bead on how to describe it yet.
Okay.
It's a thing. It's intriguing.
Something to think about, I suppose. Something to think about. Yeah, where can people find you on the internet, Gruff, if you want them to find you and listen to your voice again?
You can find me on Twitter at Grufflock or at The Fluff and Hammer. You can find me at thefluffandhammer.co.uk, and you can find me at adnickel.weebly.com. The Fluff and Hammer is a show site community loosely connected to the worlds of Warhammer, where we also do all sorts of other things that are also there. And as of today, I've just released a book.
Ooh, congrats.
Which is like the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life. So I've written a skirmish game, a setting and game, which is powered by the Planet 28 rule set. It is a giant desolate archaeology, like a Mega City 1, but standing up. It's where everybody inside has vanished overnight, and you take your team and explore it to find out what happened. Book 1 came out today, the 20th of January, and I've had a couple of responses back, and so far they've been really good. So,
good, okay.
Yay! Not shitting a brick. Woohoo! And then Book 2 will be out at the end of April. Book 3 will be out at the end of August, and that is a complete trilogy of games. And I'm about to start work now on an RPG book. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
I've gone through a lot of years of not doing very much, and all of a sudden...
That's a fucking lie, Gruff. You're always doing things.
I'll rephrase. Not doing creative stuff.
Okay, all right.
Not doing a lot of creative stuff. A lot of sort of day-to-day needs my attention stuff has been happening over the last few years, so I haven't really had much of a chance. So I've kind of come back swinging for creativity, and what else? AD Nickel is where all of my artwork and... What the fuck?
What?
Sorry, my PC has just started flipping through all of the tabs on my Windows. That was weird. Okay, and it's just stopped on the page, the thanks page for my book. Creepy. Stop it. Whatever you're doing. What was I saying? AD Nickel, it's where I put up all of my artwork and various things. And that is also going to be the home of Troll Wizard Productions, where I'm going to be self-publishing all the books. So go have a look at them.
Do it. All right, cool.
Ghosts.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. Obviously, if you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube as Decayed Andy, as in a rotten corpse, rather than the 10-year period. We're on the Moonbase 2 forums, Twitter, iTunes, Facebook, Libsyn, patreon.com/Moonbase2, $2 each month. You get the extended, you get From the Files of Teletraan 2 a week early, which is maybe how you're listening to this now. And you get the Moonbase Woo-Woo, where we talk about non-transformatory things in more detail. And we're also on ccbunker.weebly.com. So thank you once again, everybody, for coming in and listening to us talk about Spawn for a few hours. Thank you, Gruff, for talking to me about Spawn, and also telling me about the comic to begin with to read about.
Yeah, I don't get much of a chance to talk about 90s and early 2000s comics, so it was quite good to dust off the brain and just go, and all of this.
Who knows, maybe next time you and I do one, maybe it'll be Maximum Carnage.
Oh, that would be good, wouldn't it?
Because I've never read it. You directed me towards it, but I haven't read it yet, so maybe. I
mean, the big ones I want to try and get you to read are Burn the Orphanage and Helheim. Helheim.
Oh.
They're both really, I think, because they're not stuff that you would have ever come across, because they're independent comics, but they are really, really good.
Oh.
And of course, there's the comic that we both share a mutual love of that breaks both our hearts that it's no longer available to get in anything other than eye-watering expense, and that's Fear Agent.
Oh, so it's expensive now?
Fear Agent is very expensive to get now.
I'm annoyed that I didn't buy the big trade. The two big trade volumes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got all of them in like soft cover, but I would have liked the big ones. Never mind.
No, absolutely, yeah. I started buying them, and then they got discontinued, and then the price shot up. It's like,
How far did you get through?
I've completed it because I've got them all digitally now.
No, I mean, how many did you get physically?
3, 4.
Oh, okay, so you were missing like 3, 4 trades?
Yeah, I think
like
4
that?
trades, yeah.
Damn,
yeah.
That sucks, man.
Yep, but it's fine. I've got them all digitally, so yeah, I can
that's fine.
read them.
Yeah.
It's still an annoyance.
Right. Well, we'll round up this podcast. Once again, thanks to everybody. And we will catch you for either a Moonbase 2 or a From the Files episode in the not too distant future. Bye-bye, everybody.
Goodbye. Don't watch out for the necroplasm under your bed.